Chapter 1133. The official announcement of the three universal civilizations spread throughout the various star fields, quickly dispelling the uneasy atmosphere of the galactic society ever since the outbreak of the intelligent plague. Although most of the civilizations and races criticized the three universal civilizations for some of their ways of doing things, when it came to the safety of the explored universe, they had extraordinary trust in the three universal civilizations. These three backing always brought them reassuring strength. Before the impact of the announcement faded, the three universal civilizations officially lifted the seal on the ancient star desert half a month later, allowing this star field to return to the system of the galactic society. The first-generation virtual mutiny virus was basically eliminated, and the three universal civilizations set up special firewalls in many star fields. Without its self-evolving core, the virus would not be able to cause any more trouble and would completely disappear with time. The threat had been removed. The specific situation of the ancient star desert also spread, which was much more detailed than the announcement of the three universal civilizations. The enthusiasm and interest of the galactic residents soared again. On the way back, Han Xiao paid attention to the public opinion of the galactic society. It was mostly one-sided praise for the achievements of the three universal civilizations and the Beyond Grade A mechanic think tank led by him. There were also criticisms of Manison of the Mecha Empire, mixed in with complaints about the security of the area. During the intelligent plague, the various star fields were not peaceful either. Most of the time, it was some local rebel organizations that tried to incite panic, but they were all suppressed with iron fists. As for the mercenaries who tried to sneak into the ancient star desert to obtain the virus, most of them were sent to the prisons of the three universal civilizations, and the rest were all on the wanted list. The public opinion was very good, and there were no discordant comments. Or rather, the negative comments were all resolved. The galactic media of the various regions were like blood hunters who smelled blood. They swarmed to the ancient star desert, visited the various planets, and dug up the details of the disaster. They used an extremely short period of time to produce a large number of special programs to compete for news headlines. This was all approved by the three universal civilizations behind the scenes. Power came from obedience. The three universal civilizations had completed a great undertaking, so they needed the media to guide the public opinion and promote it, taking the opportunity to consolidate the recognition of their rule. The Black Star Corps fleet carrying Han Xiao and the others passed through the dynasty's military stargate. As soon as they arrived at the Shattered Star Ring, the dynasty sent someone to contact Han Xiao again. Award ceremony? Han Xiao heard this term from Terakov, the marshal of the dynasty's exploration army, who was also in charge of contacting him. That's right. Under the leadership of the three universal civilizations, the explored universe has once again resolved a universe-level disaster. It will definitely be recorded as a milestone in history. As for those who have contributed to the disaster relief operation, we have always held a large-scale award ceremony to commend their achievements. Naturally, you're on the list of invitees. Han Xiao was no stranger to this. Although he felt that it was more or less formalized, he also knew that this kind of activity was indispensable. The major event of the country was the sacrifice, and life needed a sense of ritual. All right, where will the awards ceremony be held? What time? You don't want me to go to the central galaxy, do you? I just returned to the base. This is a joint award ceremony held by the three universal civilizations. In order to conform to the trend of the times and make it convenient for the Beyond Grade as to attend, we've decided to hold this ceremony in a new flickering world in 3 months. It's indeed quite convenient. Han Xiao nodded. Suddenly, he lowered his voice and asked in a mysterious tone, "Tell me, have you guys completed the deployment against the Supercluster Alliance? When will you take action? I feel that this is not the time to talk about this." Terakov coughed and lowered his voice. Anyway, after the fourth phase of the free competition zone is completed, the three universal civilizations will consider redistributing the territory occupied by the Supercluster Alliance. They will not take it back but share it with the free organizations and other civilizations. Maybe they will come up with something similar to the New Star Field Anti-Monopoly Exploration Law as the reason. What good job. Han Xiao curled his lips. That was how things had gone in his previous life, so he was not surprised. Speaking of which, before you guys removed the seal on the ancient star desert, did you do anything to the supercluster there? We did not this time, and you know the reason. However, although we did not do anything to them, we took the opportunity to leave behind a large number of spies and scouts to closely monitor the movement of the Star Ark civilization's troops and resources, preparing for any conflicts that might break out, Terakov explained. How evil. Han Xiao clicked his tongue. You're not qualified to say that, Terakov said. Don't think that I don't know. I heard a lot of rumors from the intelligence department. It said that you left a lot of things in the ancient Star Desert's black market. Same to you. Han Xiao did not mind. The two of them had known each other for many years and were already old acquaintances. After exchanging a few words, they were about to end the call. This time, Terakov thought of something and said, if you have time, you can watch a show. Our colleagues in the Public Opinion Control Department seem to have sent some information about you over. After hanging up, Han Xiao received a link from Terakov. After opening it, the virtual screen changed and showed a political talk show. It seemed to have been updated not long ago. This was a show similar to Rudin's Date, but it was more authoritative. It was called Focus Talk, and it took the route of the upper class. He opened it and took a look. This episode was a report on the intelligent plague, analyzing and introducing the impact of the ancient Star Desert. Han Xiao fast-forwarded for a while and finally saw his name. A decent-looking god or a person was talking on the screen. The subtitles beside introduced this person as a senior researcher of the Galactic Society, a scholar. Before Black Star walked out of the Blue Star civilization, the Godora civilization already knew about this person. We personally witnessed the rise of this strong neighbor, the Black Star Corps, and we even fought side by side in history. The Black Star Corps has passed the primitive accumulation stage. From the recent Black Star Cup, the Holy Light Emissary Project, and the Intelligent Plague incident, it is not hard to see that they are working hard to take on more social responsibilities. Although Black Star is a universe warlord, his way of doing things is not the same as others. Now that he has a huge amount of social resources in his hands, he seems to be more interested in using these resources to maintain and improve the universe's environment. The other beyond grade A warlords make us feel awe and fear, but for Black Star, we feel more respect and admiration. He gives us a different feeling, diluting the instinctive fear of the galactic residents toward the peak of an individual's strength. Maybe this is the source of his extraordinary affinity. Just as Han Xiao was feeling great listening to him brag, the image changed and the scenes of his deeds flashed past. Coupled with the narration in a steady tone, it sounded very serious, like an official news report. Very soon, it was time for the most recent incident. This show had obtained the first-hand video of the confrontation on planet Magnetic Cloud and broadcast it exclusively to the entire universe. This is the promotional material that the dynasty sent over, Han Xiao thought to himself. The image recorded the confrontation between himself and Manison from a third-party perspective. He heard himself say that famous quote again in the image, and there was even close-up. No matter how big the universe is, there's an end, but ambition is endless. Han Xiao stared at the screen, and his lips curled up. He had to admit that at this moment, he looked very handsome in the image. The reason the dynasty sent this video was probably because they thought that this scene could improve his public image and help with publicity. The next moment, the narration ended, and the image changed to a luxurious office. There was a new interviewer who also had a big background. The subtitles introduced this person as the chairman of the Steward Committee. Karabur Petersius, a tenured professor of the Supreme Institute of Technology of the Radiant Federation, the principal of the Academy of Truth, the recipient of medals such as Stellaris and Eye of Heller. A long list of honors and titles could not be written in the image, so it could only be played. The Steward Committee was not some random Tom, Dick, or Harry. It had a big background, a long history, and a high status. Its founder was the founder of the energy level theory, Dr. Stuart Ona, who was the traditional father of supers. In his later years, he created an award under his own name to reward experts who had made significant achievements in various fields. The committee was the organization that managed and evaluated the awards. It was very similar to the Nobel Prize in Han Zhao's memory from his previous life, but it had a higher status and had been in operation for thousands of years. Every year, the three universal civilizations and the advanced civilizations would provide special sponsorships. The Stewart Award was absolutely objective and neutral, and the award were not affected by any political or economic factors. It was selected every 3 years, and although it could not be said that it was always popular, it was indeed very authoritative. Caribou stroked his neatly trimmed, gray braided beard and smiled at the camera. Black Star is a strong person in the universe, and he's also a respected scientist. I've been friends with him for a very long time. Putting aside his abilities, I also admire his ideals. I'm also a scientist, so I'm very clear about our strong desire and curiosity toward learning. No one knows better than me how much perseverance it takes to destroy an unknown technology with one's own hands. I really admire Black Star. He became the special security advisor of the three universal civilizations. This is the first time in history, and he deserves it. I can reveal some inside information here. Our Stewart Committee has received many nominations for Black Star's Peace Award from our members. The number of people who want Black Star to be the winner of this year's Stewart Peace Award is very high. From my personal point of view, I think very highly of him. He has made a huge contribution to the universe. Caribou did not hide his admiration for Han Xiao at all. At the end of the interview, he made a simple conclusion. In the future, when we look back at this period of history, we might see Black Star's choice today as the turning point of the era. He might have influenced the direction of the world. Han Xiao sighed. He had heard of the Stewart Peace Award before, but such a grand thing naturally had nothing to do with the players in his previous life. If I win this year's Stewart Peace Award, I'll probably get another Universe Legendary point. The dynasty is really sparing no effort in promoting me. Han Xiaoxin chuckled in his mind. He was very satisfied with the three Universal Civilizations promotion. During this time, he had been watching the various shows bragging about him. With so many honor points, he could use them as a protective halo to reflect damage. If anyone attacked him, they would definitely suffer the backlash of public opinion and lose a lot of reputation points. Even if Radiance and Ethereal wanted to deal with him, they would have to ruin his reputation first. Otherwise, they would have to weigh the loss of reputation points. Beep beep. At this time, his communicator rang. He had received a call request. Han Xiao took a look. It was a call from Ames. As soon as the call was connected, Ames' beautiful figure in a black dress was projected in front of him. Her arms were crossed, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. I saw the recording. You copied what I said. Haha, I suddenly thought of it. Looks like you got it. You have a deep impression of it. Ames narrowed her eyes. Her crescent-shaped eyes hid a watery smile, showing that she was in an extremely good mood. I basically remember everything you said. You're getting more and more likable. Ames blinked and chuckled. I have nothing to do at home. Do you have time to visit me? Miss me? Are you coming or not? Ames raised her brows slightly. Since you've already invited me, how can I not go? Wait for me to arrange my schedule. It's on the way anyway. I'll wait for you at home. Ames took 2 steps forward, raised her hand, and touched Han Zhao's cheek. Unfortunately, it was just a projection, so there was no feeling of physical contact. She then chuckled and ended the call, disappearing from the spot. Han Xiao touched his face, shook his head, and laughed. It's not good to come empty-handed. I'd better bring some gifts. It just so happened that the three universal civilizations had released his authority, so he could exchange an Esper ultimate knowledge for Ames. He could even give it to Hela in the future. At the same time, he also had something to ask Aesop. Having an old man at home was like having treasure. Maybe this old man would know some information about the Sanctum, the Holy Covenant, Oathkeeper, or Manison. Furthermore, Han Xiao had a vague intuition. He had a feeling that if he went to find Ames now, he would encounter some unexpected gains. Thinking of this, Han Xiao could not help but look out the window. Harrison happened to pass by. Chapter 1134. Streaks of blue flames tore through the dark curtain of the universe, extending all the way from the depths of the universe. They stopped at the port of Floating Dragon Island outside Blue Star's atmosphere, leaving behind a rainbow that the residents of Floating Dragon could see when they looked up. Although they had a lazy leader, Floating Dragon still expanded to 5 islands, with hundreds of millions of residents living there. Most of them were Blue Star people who ran up. If they stayed on the surface, they would have to be under the jurisdiction of the Aquamarine Federation. Floating Dragon, as a neutral island, had more freedom, and they could experience the glory of the galactic society not far from home. It was a good vacation spot, which indirectly promoted the tourism industry there. Black Star's fleet docked at the main dock, attracting the attention of countless people on the platform. When Han Xiao walked out of the cabin with a group of subordinates wearing the Black Star Corps uniform, these people immediately surrounded them excitedly. "It's really Black Star. Comrade, you're our pride. Can you give me an autograph? My grandpa likes you the most." Han Xiao and the others were completely surrounded by the crowd, and it was difficult for them to even move an inch. Hearing the shouts and feeling the enthusiasm of the people, Han Xiao used his ability Cloud Smile. The effect was not ordinary, and the crowd's mood became even higher. Most of the people there were Blue Star people. They were all Black Star's admirers since they were young. Recently, due to the promotion of the 3 universal civilizations, his reputation had been extremely high. He was almost worshipped as an omnipotent god by the Blue Star people. This time, the Floating Dragon soldiers who had been waiting for a long time walked up and separated the crowd, leaving a path. Jenny walked up expressionlessly and spoke with an insincere tone. "Welcome to Floating Dragon, Your Excellency Black Star." "Your tone doesn't sound that welcoming," Han Xiao joked. "No, I'm very happy." Jenny stared with her dead fish eyes, turned her body slightly, and made an inviting gesture. "Come with me." The two of them left with a group of subordinates, leaving behind many people at the dock. Watching the backs of the group of people disappear from sight, many people winked at each other, revealing a look that said, "You know what I mean." The scandal between Black Star and the Dragon Emperor had been circulating in the Shattered Star Ring for decades, and everyone in the Blue Star knew about it. Black Star frequently visited Floating Dragon Island, and Dragon Emperor moved her base to Black Star's hometown. Even if Bennett was beaten to death, the people of Blue Star would not believe that there was nothing going on between the two of them. Han Xiao and Jenny walked at the very front, leading the group as they passed through the streets. Countless passers-by stared at them in surprise and excitement, chatting with each other here and there. "You seem to be in a good mood today." Han Xiao glanced at her. "Why do you say that?" Jenny was puzzled. "Your attitude towards me today is not as bad as before." "Humph." Jenny snorted. "If you like, I can recover a little." She had never liked Black Star. Firstly, she did not like this fellow who increased her workload, and secondly, it was because of Ames. However, after seeing the recent news, although Jenny did not say it, she actually admired Black Star. If she were to speak ill of him now, she would not be able to get over it in her heart. TSK, you don't have a soul like this." Han Xiao shook his head and joked. "I still prefer your wild and unruly side." Jenny secretly rolled her eyes and could not be bothered with Han Xiao. At this time, the group walked to the intersection, and they heard a series of dense footsteps, as well as the crisp sound of metal rubbing against each other. Everyone looked over and saw a group of floating dragon warriors in dark gold heavy armor, pushing creatures of different races who had black cloth covering their heads as they hurriedly walked through the street not far away. The pedestrians around them hurriedly dodged as if they were afraid of tigers. The entire body of this group of heavy-armored warriors was covered by armor, and their faces could not be seen. There was an inexplicable cold-blooded aura when they moved. There were 2 emblems on the chest of the armor. One was the floating dragon symbol, and the other was an unfamiliar symbol that Han Xiao had never seen before. It probably represented the identity of this group of people. "What force is this? They didn't seem to be here the last time I was here." Han Xiao was curious. "That's the hunting group. It was only recently separated from Wilsonder's security force and became an independent organization. Jenny said concisely. Harrison saw the bloodstains on the clothes of the creatures being escorted and could not help but ask, what are they going to do to those people? As soon as he said that, Han Xiao and Jenny both turned to look at him with a strange expression. What's wrong? Harrison was a little nervous from the two of them looking at him like that. Jenny ignored him and looked at Han Xiao. Black Star, where did you find this newbie again? He doesn't seem to know when it's his turn to speak. Don't say that. Harrison is a great guy. He helped me a lot. Han Xiao did not mind and chuckled. I like it when you're mean. This is more like it. Humph. Jenny looked back at Harrison and waved her hand. Since you're so curious, let's go take a look. It's not far anyway. Here, can we? Harrison looked at Han Xiao. Let's go take a look then. Han Xiao nodded. Although he was now Harrison's overbearing CEO, he would still try his best to satisfy the small request of someone with advanced luck glow. The group followed the hunting team all the way to the edge of Floating Dragon Island. A translucent light, golden barrier isolated the vacuum, and outside was the universe. A large crowd gathered in the distance, but the hunting team did not care. They did not chase away the onlookers and focused on doing their own things. They lined up the people with black cloth in their hands and kneeled down before opening a small part of the protective shield. A small opening appeared in the golden barrier, and these people without armor protection were instantly sucked out. They were exposed to the universe and writhing in pain like fish jumping on a chopping board. Very soon, these people's struggles became weaker, and a layer of white frost appeared on everyone's body. Their bodily functions were destroyed by the vacuum, and only their heads were hidden under the black cloth. Otherwise, their painful and twisted expressions would be visible. The next moment, the hunting team raised the guns in their hands and fired at the same time. Green laser beams shot out of the blasters and shattered these people who were about to turn into ice sculptures. They turned into balls of light and floated deep into the universe. Is this an execution? Harrison's eyes widened. What do they do? Isn't this a little too cruel? Although he had never been to the Shattered Star Ring before, he had done some research on Floating Dragon after hearing about the change in the itinerary. Because the Black Star Corps' galactic pirate Happy Hut was too famous, the galactic pirates in the Shattered Star Ring had moved their businesses to other regions on a large scale. Floating Dragon no longer accepted galactic pirates, and it became a free city with good security. He had thought that Floating Dragon's culture was very good, but he did not expect that there would be Floating Dragon troops executing people on the spot in front of countless onlookers. This was not a sign of good security, and executing people on the spot was most likely a sign of a reign of terror. He could not imagine that he would see such a barbaric act there. Cruel, Jenny said with dissatisfaction. Look at the people around you. Which one of them thinks it's cruel? Harrison turned around and was shocked to see that every single one of the onlookers had a look of joy on their faces. There were even some people who were clapping and cheering. Jenny looked at Han Xiao and snorted. The more famous you are, the more enemies you have. In recent years, there have been many infiltration incidents in Blue Star. These criminals are spies and rebels from different organizations. They have advanced equipment, and their goal is to infiltrate Blue Star and harm you by destroying your mother planet. Some of them have their eyes on Floating Dragon and are trying to build a secret stronghold here or use Floating Dragon's location to throw weapons of mass destruction at Blue Star. Therefore, we have created a hunting team to eliminate these spies. Black Star, we have helped you block a lot of pressure. Hearing that, Harrison understood. Most of the onlookers were from Blue Star, so it was no wonder that they were so happy. These criminals did not have any environmental awareness and were trying to destroy their mother planet. Executing them on the spot would not only not be cruel, but it would also make them feel at ease. Thanks. Han Xiao smiled. The reason Ames had moved Floating Dragon there was to help him block these malicious intentions toward his home planet. Just a thank you, and it's over? Han Xiao thought for a while and said, Then I'll bring you some special magic potions for hair growth next time as a gift. Go and find Ames yourself. Jenny's face was green. She resisted the urge to curse and turned around to leave. Seeing that, Harrison mumbled softly and asked in confusion, Your Excellency Black Star, You're a top figure in the universe. Why is this woman so disrespectful to you? I've known her for decades, and we've always been so noisy. There's no point in talking about status between friends. Han Xiao waved his hands. So that's how it is. You're really magnanimous. Harrison flattered without batting an eyelid. He then asked, Then, what's her name? You don't know? Jenny is the general manager of Floating Dragon, the sister and best friend of the Dragon Emperor. It should be easy to find her online. I didn't check that carefully. So, her name is Jenny. I think she's quite pretty. When did you become blind? Han Xiao suddenly stopped in his tracks, looked down at his expression, and said with a surprised tone, Don't tell me you've fallen for her. Harrison's face turned slightly red, and he said shyly, I can't say that I like her. After all, this is the first time I've met her. Oh, I get it. You're lusting after her body. Harrison was speechless. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. He was not sure about Jenny's love life in his previous life, but Harrison had been an old bachelor until he died in the World Tree civilization. He had never heard of him having any partners or children. Although Jenny might be more than 100 years older than Harrison, she took good care of herself and looked like she was in her 30s. Furthermore, as the old saying went, a woman 3 years older carries gold bricks. A woman 30 years older carries mountains. A woman 300 years older carries immortal pills. Age was not a distance, and true love was invincible. It was a win-win situation. There's a chance. With that in mind, Han Xiao patted Harrison's shoulder and chuckled. If you like her, then do it. I'll be your shield. Quickly take her down and teach her a lesson. It's a good thing I didn't argue with her. Otherwise, with her personality, she would definitely be beaten up once every 3 days and once every 5 days. Harrison's face turned even redder. What should I do? I have no experience. You're the rich second-generation heir of a large financial group, and you haven't even had a girlfriend before? I used to like reading. How embarrassing. Han Xiao was heartbroken. What a waste of your family's wealth. The two of them chatted as they brought them to Ames's palace. Han Xiao had Harrison and his subordinates wait at the stronghold while he tidied his clothes and stepped into Ames's palace. They arrived at a garden full of rare herbs. Ames was lying on the long bed in the middle of the garden. Her black dress was like a blooming black flower. She was using her force field to control the recovery coin that Hela had given her to shuttle through the flowers. The table beside her was filled with sumptuous wine and food. Hearing footsteps, Ames grabbed the coin and pulled it back. She turned to look at Han Xiao, smiled, and patted the bed beside her. You're here. Take a seat. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Han Xiao walked forward and picked up a full blue crystal wine glass from the table. He sat on the side of the bed, took a sip, and smacked his lips. Old Aesop made this again? As soon as he said that, his shoulders sank, and he felt a pair of white arms wrap around him. Ames put her chin on his shoulder from behind and asked curiously, What did you do in the ancient Star Desert? There are too few details in the news. I want to hear it from you. Han Xiao was not surprised by her intimate actions. In the secondary dimensions, the two of them had been together for a few months, and their relationship had grown closer. Although Ames was a clean freak and did not like to touch other people's bodies, he was not. Let's not talk about this first. I brought you a gift. Han Xiao snapped his fingers, and a virtual screen popped up. On it was a list of Esper ultimate knowledges. The 3 universal civilizations have released my authority and allowed me to exchange ultimate knowledges for others. However, there's a limit to the number. Pick one you want, and I'll get it for you. So good. Ames blinked. Let me guess. You're not giving this to me, and you're going to teach this knowledge to other Espers, such as Hela and the others, right? That's right. Han Xiao nodded. This is more like you. Ames's lips curled up slightly. She looked at the screen and tapped on one of the options. Han Xiao glanced at it. This doesn't seem to be the most suitable for you. Didn't you say that there's a limit to the number of knowledges that can be exchanged? I don't care. It's fine as long as it's suitable for Hela and Aurora. Ames smiled gently. You're too considerate of her. Han Xiao was helpless. They're my only students, just like my children. Who else can I be considerate of other than them? Ames punched Han Xiao's chest and said, Hurry up and tell me a story. I want to hear it. Han Xiao raised his head and drank the wine to moisten his throat. He then picked up the crystal clear blue fruit on the table and threw it into his mouth to chew. While eating, he recounted his experience in the ancient star desert in detail. After telling the story for half a day, Ames was finally satisfied and let Han Xiao go. They agreed to continue the next day. Han Xiao left the palace and planned to look for Aesop. However, he did not expect Aesop to go to the army's stronghold and come looking for him. After returning to the stronghold, Han Xiao immediately saw Aesop sitting in the hall with Harrison and the others accompanying him. "Old man, I was just about to look for you. Did you foresee it again? So you came looking for me first?" Han Xiao sat down opposite Aesop and joked, "Stop fooling around. I'm here to talk business with you today." Aesop put down the cup in his hand and said with a serious tone, "How rare." Han Xiao was a little curious. "What do you want to talk to me about?" "My passive foresight has been triggered very frequently recently. I think it's better to inform you about some things." Aesop raised his finger and said in a deep voice, the first thing. First, I saw a special existence descend on Blue Star, and I saw his appearance clearly. Since you know what he looks like, why don't you tell Bennett and ask him to send someone to compare the global surveillance and find this person?" "That's the problem," Aesop frowned. "I've searched the entire Blue Star, and there are no records of this person in all the surveillance cameras. There are no eyewitness reports. It's like this person doesn't exist at all." "Is your prophecy wrong?" "No, this prophecy has never had such a strong foresight. I can't tell why, but I'm sure this prophecy is reliable." "Then, what else is special about this person that you saw?" Hearing this, Aesop glanced at Han Xiao. "In my prophecy, you seem to have interacted with him a long time ago. P.S. Recommended book, Titan and the Dragon King, by Rue Schweffinyan. P.S. 2. The moderator has set up an event in the book review section. After the event, 20 lucky viewers will be randomly selected to be given the exclusive title, Armor Leather. If you're interested, please take a look." Chapter 1135. Interacted with him before? Let me see what he looks like. Han Xiao was curious. Aesop took out his communicator, operated it, and brought up a 3D image of a person. This was a pale man who looked like a Blue Star Caucasian. Han Xiao sized him up for a long time and felt that he was very unfamiliar. There was no such person in his memory. "Strange. I've never seen this person before," Han Xiao said. "Anyway, I'll get someone to look for him on Blue Star." Since he was able to be predicted by Aesop, this person was definitely involved in something important. He did not know if it was good or bad for him to descend on Blue Star. After all, Blue Star was his mother planet in name, so he still had to be concerned about its safety. "You said that this was the first thing. What's the second thing?" "I foresaw the reappearance of history." Aesop frowned, looking a little confused. Han Zhao's eye sparkled. "You mean, in my foresight, many historical figures who had died long ago descended to the world again. I even saw the figure of the primordial ones. Could it be about the Holy Covenant reviving beyond grade as?" This meant that old man Aesop also vaguely foresaw this future. Then, the cause of the prophecy should be the deal between him and Oathkeeper. You don't seem surprised by this prophecy." Aesop was confused. "I have some understanding of this matter." Han Xiao stroked his chin and asked, "By the way, do you know any information?" He briefly asked about the Holy Covenant organization, Oathkeeper, the Sanctums, and so on, hoping that Aesop, who had traveled extensively, would know some information that ordinary people did not. Unfortunately, Aesop shook his head, indicating that he had never heard of these things. However, when he mentioned Oathkeeper, he seemed to have thought of something. The high-dimensional psychic projection ability that ignores distance is not common. It sounds simple, but the requirements are actually very strict. Psychics and most psychic Esper abilities cannot do it. If it's not his own Esper ability, then it's a bit like a legendary primal Esper ability entity, Soul Flame. As soon as he heard the words primal Esper ability, Han Xiao knew that it was reliable and quickly asked, "Do you know anything else?" Soul Flame is one of the super high-risk Esper abilities. There have been no sightings of it for many years. "Oh, You probably know this basic information, so I won't repeat it. I'll tell you something you don't know. When I was young, I seemed to have a premonition. That premonition warned me that if I did something, a person who used soul flame would suddenly appear and to try to control me, forcing me to help him find something. So, I followed my foresight and avoided disaster, avoiding this line of fate. This guy might be the Oathkeeper you mentioned. This is my only interaction with him. After talking for a while, Han Shao realized that this was all Aesop knew about Oathkeeper, so he could only give up. He made a mental note of the name, Soul Flame, and planned to ask the Primal Chaos Mysterious Energy and the Holy Light Particle. They were both members of the Primal Esper ability family, so they should know more. Moreover, Primal Esper ability entities had a long lifespan. If he knew who had the last time Soul Flame fell into, he might be able to get more information about the Holy Covenant organization. Since you know about this, I won't emphasize it. Aesop raised a third finger and said seriously, there's one last prophecy. I foresee that a universe-level disaster is brewing in a place we can't see. You're not talking about the intelligent plague, are you? Then your prophecy has probably expired. Do I look like I'm joking with you? Aesop said angrily. I see wormholes that span tens of millions of miles open in the void, and fleets swarm out. A galactic war no less intense than the exploration era will break out. No one will be able to stay out of it. Han Zhao's eyes narrowed. It sounded like the invasion of the World Tree civilization. Prophecies would not appear out of nowhere. There had to be some kind of trigger or change. Now that Aesop had predicted this future, it meant that there was some progress in the World Tree civilization's plot. The first thing Han Shao thought of was the wormhole coordinates back then. It was very difficult to locate a wormhole that had accidentally opened in an unexplored universe without a frame of reference. The workload was huge, and it required a lot of manpower and resources to calculate, deconstruct the coordinates, and deduce the model. Even the slightest error in the data would be magnified hundreds of millions of times in reality. It required absolute precision. His progress was limited. Could it be that the dynasty had made some progress? It seems like I have to find some time to ask around. Back then, when ES God accidentally obtained the wormhole coordinates, I knew that the World Tree Civilization storyline would definitely change. Han Shao shook his head and felt that it was indeed the case. At this moment, Aesop stood up, patted his waist, and said casually, I've delivered the prophecy to you. I'll leave the details to you. I'll inform you if there are any new prophecies. He had specially told Han Shao these prophecies and did not reveal them to Ames. That was because it was useless for Ames to know and would only treat it as a story. Only Black Star would take action. It was much more reliable. Han Shao was about to send him off, but Aesop waved his hand and rejected him. However, when he reached the door, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and thought of something. By the way, there's something I have to tell you. While I was waiting for you, I casually helped your subordinate predict something. This lad named Harrison has quite a future. His destiny line is very thick, and it has already deviated from its original trajectory due to the disturbance. With that, Aesop opened the door and left. Han Shao turned to look at the confused Harrison and was not surprised. Harrison had been poached by him, so of course his destiny line had changed. The World Tree Civilization's war might break out earlier, and it was not certain if he would still sacrifice himself like in his previous life. Han Shao sorted out the 3 prophecies. Although they were all rather vague, Aesop had indirectly provided him with a lot of key information, and he had more clues. The best thing to deal with now was the prophecy to find someone. Han Shao threw the image of the target to Philip and asked him to compare it to the surveillance of the entire planet. He then gathered the people of the Black Star Corps stationed in the Blue Star stronghold and spread out to search the entire planet. With his influence on planet Aquamarine, even if it was a cockroach, he would be able to find it, let alone a human. My name is Rhodey Anchor, and I'm 48 years old this year. I'm a citizen of Frost Forest City, Red Maple Province, Blue Star. I live in Zyber neighborhood, Chengwang Street, Block B, Room 1511. My ID is 7705459 1A62H, and I work in the Philo Corporation branch 3 streets away. I'm the deputy manager of the operations department. My parents were survivors of the old era, and they died in a riot caused by the mutation disaster. At that time, I was still an ignorant child. The disaster caused a large-scale exodus of the city's residents, and the shops on the streets were robbed clean. Charred skeletons of abandoned cars could be seen everywhere on the streets. I lived in such a desolate city for a few weeks before I was luckily found by the rescue team of the Black Star Corps. I was then brought to the sanctuary to live. After that, His Excellency Black Star resolved the mutation disaster, and I was sent to Public Orphanage number 87. After 6 years of counseling by teacher Melissa, I finally walked out of the psychological shadow of my childhood and got rid of my social phobia, depression, and other symptoms. After that, life seemed to have sped up. Going to school, graduating, entering society, participating in the reconstruction of Blue Star, constantly changing jobs, moving around, having one girlfriend after another, experiencing 2 failed marriages. Life flashed by like a white steed, and the rapid development of the times affected the life of every laborer. Like everyone else in my generation, I bravely moved forward and contributed to the new era. I worked hard, and I personally witnessed the rapid development of Blue Star after it connected with the galaxy. However, as I grew older, my ambition for my career became weaker and weaker. Instead, I missed my parents more and more. 5 years ago, I resigned from my job in a large enterprise in Black Star City and returned to my parents' hometown, Frost Forest City. The reconstruction of my hometown had already been completed, and I bought a property in this city. I found a new job and chose to settle down here. The new job was very leisurely, and there was not as intense a competitive environment as the capital. Life here was as simple as drinking water, and the people I saw every day were the same people. As I grew older, I liked a slow life, and I quickly adapted to and fell in love with this kind of daily peace. Galaxy calendar year 731, July 16th. I still remember that it was a bright and sunny morning. I woke up very early, washed up as usual, and prepared to take out last night's leftover dinner from the fridge and heat it up for breakfast as usual. But when I was washing up, I suddenly realized that I could not see my reflection in the mirror. A huge panic gripped my heart, and I did not know what had happened. I curled up in the corner of the bathroom and looked around uneasily, as though some monster would jump out at any moment. I trembled like this for more than a minute before I mustered up the courage to run out of the bathroom. I did not even dare to wear my shoes as I hurriedly grabbed my keys and rushed out of the house. I pressed the elevator button like a madman. The apartment I lived in was an apartment with a total of 33 floors and 4 elevators. Every time it was rush hour, the elevator would always go up to the highest floor and then slowly descend. It would stop at almost every floor. Usually, I would watch the morning news while waiting for the elevator, but now the waiting time felt like years. I was so anxious that I wanted to break open the elevator door and pull the cable inside to pull the elevator down. The elevator finally reached the 15th floor where I was. When the elevator door opened, it was almost full of people. Occasionally, when there was an overload situation like this, I would politely greet the neighbors inside and then obediently wait for the next elevator. But now I did not care so much. I grabbed the elevator door and shouted at them, telling them what had just happened. However, I soon realized that no one was looking at me and no one heard me. It was as though in their eyes, I did not exist. Just when I was in panic and fear, the people inside found that the elevator door could not be closed. They pressed the button to close the door in puzzlement. There was even someone who wanted to hit the elevator door, and it just happened to land on my arm. What happened next made me even more frightened. This person's hand easily passed through my arm, as if I was just an illusion. Before my brain could react, my vision suddenly trembled like water ripples, and I hallucinated. A woman in the elevator did not hold the communication device in her hand, and it fell to the ground. At this moment, my body suddenly exploded with intense pain. I could not control my body and fell to the ground, twitching. My vision quickly blurred, and a strong sense of sleepiness rushed to my brain. The moment before I fainted, I vaguely saw a communication device that was exactly the same as the one in the hallucination between the legs of many pairs of legs. It fell to the ground in the elevator. In the next second, I fainted. When I woke up again, the sky was already dark. I was still lying in front of the elevator door, and a sense of weakness ran through my body. Doubted that feeling was as though I had not eaten for 2 days and had stayed up 2 nights at the same time. The intense hunger seemed to have chased away my fear. I moved back home step by step and almost finished all the food in the fridge. Only then did I regain my strength. During that time, I tried to use the metal cutlery and the camera to reflect my figure, but they all failed. After that, I forced myself to calm down and conducted many tests. I realized that I did not exist in the eyes of anyone, and I was unable to touch anyone. However, I seemed to be able to affect some substances that did not come into contact with living beings. Thus, I tried driving, stealing, causing accidents, and so on. Most of the actions that could affect others were interrupted by sudden fainting. However, many of my attempts at stealing succeeded, and no one noticed. Fortunately, I was able to survive until now. Otherwise, I would have starved to death long ago. The hallucinations that caused me to faint appeared frequently. I realized that I seemed to be able to foresee the future, but I was unable to activate or deactivate it. The moment I activated it, I would faint and feel weak. I guessed that this ability was exhausting my physical strength. I thought of the mutation disaster in the past. A terrifying mutation must have happened to my body. I lived in this state for 2 to 3 months. At first, I was very scared. Then I felt happy for a period of time. However, after that, it turned into confusion and emptiness. I was unable to interact with people in reality, so I tried to communicate with people online. However, I realized that no matter what form I used to leave a message, it seemed to be ignored by others. I sent messages to my friends, but I never received a reply. Even the company did not call me to ask why I did not go to work. It was as if they had all agreed that I had disappeared from the face of the earth. I did not understand why. Thus, I wrote this diary. If anyone sees my diary, I hope that you can come and help me. My address is Frost Forest City, Red Maple Province, Morning Light Street, West Brown Neighborhood, Block B, Room 1511. I will wait for you at home. Blue Star's first public announcement channel. Post help. I have disappeared. Post views. 0. A day later, on Floating Dragon Island, there is no such person. Han Xiao received the search report from Philip and the many army members. He could not help but raise his brows. Master Hum, not only did we not find anything in the surveillance footage, we also screened the household registration files of the Aquamarine Federation and compared the ID photos of all the citizens. There is no match, Hum. On the other side, the army warrior who was in charge of the search also explained, we used all kinds of life detection devices to scan the entire planet, even the wild, but we still couldn't find the target. Is this person really on planet Aquamarine? Han Xiao knocked on the table and turned to look at Harrison. What do you think? Me? Harrison pointed at himself with surprise, hesitated for a moment, and said, why don't we just release a missing person notice? All right. Han Xiao nodded. He was originally unsure of the background of this person in Aesop's prophecy, so he did not want to alert the enemy. However, since he could not find the person now, there was no harm in trying to release a missing person notice. Anyway, he was here, so he was not afraid of anyone causing trouble. He wanted to see what kind of relationship he had with this stranger. Chapter 1136. 4 days passed very quickly, and the missing person notice that was released through the Aquamarine Federation's official news was like a stone sinking into the ocean. There was no response at all. Either the target did not see it, or the target did see it, but did not come. Similarly, there were no other reports. Han Xiao had no choice but to let his subordinates continue the carpet search. He also used Bold Explorer on the image of the target provided by Aesop, but what he saw was an image with unknown meaning. A large number of twisted lines passed through the universe, and he did not know what kind of clue that was. After another round of search, the spaceships returned to Floating Dragon's Dock one after another. Many Black Star Corps members walked out of the hatch unhappily. After searching for a few days, they could not find the target every time. Repeating a task that already had a result, anyone would feel frustrated and depressed, and the Army warriors were no exception. Harrison was in the crowd. Suddenly, he saw Jenny's figure from the corner of his eyes, and his heart skipped a beat. He hesitated for a while, walked over, and summoned his courage to talk to her. "Jenny, I'm Harrison. We meet again." Jenny was receiving a group of financial group investors. Hearing someone call her, she turned around, nodded casually, and said calmly, "It's you. What's the matter?" A few days ago, Han Shao and Ames had gathered the important officers under them and held a small banquet. Han Shao had introduced Harrison to her, but Jenny did not have a good impression of Harrison. She still remembered that this was a talkative and curious baby, a rash young man. Can I talk to you?" Harrison stuttered. "Now." Jenny frowned slightly, waved her hands, and said unhappily, "I'm very busy now. Can't you see that I have guests here?" Then she looked away, no longer paying attention to Harrison, and walked away with the investors with a distant and cold attitude. Harrison opened his mouth, but did not dare disturb her. He could only follow the group dejectedly and prepare to report the mission to Han Shao in the Dragon Emperor's palace. However, just as he was about to leave the dock, Harrison suddenly saw a person lying on the ground not far away. His clothes were ragged, and his face was facing down. The passers-by around him did not notice him at all, as if they did not see him. Strange, is that person sleeping on the ground? Why is no one doing anything? Harrison was curious. The Black Star Corps soldier next to him heard him and followed his line of sight. He was immediately puzzled. Where is someone lying on the ground? It's right there. It's so obvious. Can't you see it? Harrison was stunned. The surrounding army warriors all stopped and looked over. After staring for a few seconds, they turned around and looked at Harrison with strange gazes. "Dude, let's go to the eye doctor." Harrison was stunned. His exuberant curiosity was instantly ignited. He shook off the crowd and strode over to the person lying on the ground. He hesitated for a moment before reaching out to push the person's body. "Wake up." This person seemed to have fainted and didn't react at all. Harrison couldn't hold back his curiosity. He reached out and flipped the man over. The moment he saw this person's face, Harrison's eyes widened in shock. "You said, this is the person we're looking for?" Half an hour later, Han Shao rushed back to the base from the Dragon Emperor's palace. He came to a secret interrogation room and looked across the table with a strange expression. "That's right. I found him at the dock. He seems to have fallen into a coma and hasn't woken up." Harrison stood at the side and pointed at the chair opposite the table. Han Shao looked at the empty chair with a complicated expression. He said with a heavier tone, "You're not kidding me, right? There's no one here." Harrison scratched his head and said in confusion, "I don't understand either. It seems like other than me, no one else can see him. But I can guarantee that he's exactly the same as the target we're looking for." "Where did you find him?" Han Shao was confused. "You might not believe me." Harrison shrunk his neck. "I picked him up." Han Shao was speechless. What else can I say? If not for Harrison coincidentally bumping into him. Even if this guy came right in front of him, he probably wouldn't have seen him. No wonder you're an explorer. This is your talent. You can pick up good things wherever you go. Han Shao was skeptical. After thinking about it, he sent a message to Aesop and asked him to come over. He then asked Harrison to describe this person's appearance. Harrison took a step forward, looked down at the air, at least in Han Shao's eyes, and said, "He's very haggard. He's so thin that he's just skin and bones. His clothes are tattered, and there's a lot of dust on him. It's like he hasn't taken care of himself for many days." Han Shao asked Philip to outline this person's current appearance according to Harrison's description. This person was much thinner than the portrait Aesop provided. Without comparison, it was almost impossible to recognize the two as the same person. After a while, Aesop rushed over. He looked at the empty seat as soon as he entered the room and chuckled. "You guys are pretty efficient. You found him so quickly." Seeing this, Han Shao was depressed. "Why can't I see it? What kind of screening mechanism is this?" If not for the fact that he knew Harrison's personality, He would almost think that these two guys colluded to trick him. With that thought, Han Xiao reached out and swept the air in front of him. He did not feel any physical sensation. "Army Commander," your hand passed through his body. Harrison was explaining when he suddenly got a shock. "Wait." He suddenly started convulsing like he was electrocuted. "Hurry up and wake him up." Han Xiao retracted his hand and frowned. He brought up the surveillance footage in the room and realized that all kinds of detection devices could not see this person. Taking pictures was also useless. This situation clearly wasn't invisible. It seemed like only certain people could see and touch this person. What did Aesop and Harrison have in common? If he had to say, it seemed like both of them were pretty lucky. Could it be that only the luck attribute was high enough to see this guy? Then I'd better wash up and sleep early. Just as he was thinking, Harrison suddenly yelled, "He's awake!" Han Xiao was energized. He bit the bullet and said to the air, "Tell me, where are you from?" The air suddenly became quiet. Han Xiao waited for 3 seconds but did not get a reply. Instead, he saw that Harrison and Aesop were listening to something seriously. Did he speak? Looks like I can't hear him either. Han Xiao was helpless. "Tell me, what did he say?" "He said his name is Rhodey Anchor, and he's from Blue Star." Harrison scratched his head and repeated what he said. Hearing the other party say his name, Han Xiao immediately connected to the Blue Star Federation's population database and searched for this name. However, there was still nothing. There was still no trace of this person. This doesn't make sense. Since he's a Blue Star resident, there's no way he doesn't have a file. Either it was erased by an abnormal power, or if some kind of power is affecting me to find his identity. Could it be that if I can't see him, I can't find any information about him in any form? But I could hear Harrison's retelling. Han Xiao searched the database in his mind. Suddenly, he thought of a special form of existence. This situation seemed to be the characteristic of a high-dimensional information form. The research on information form in the explored universe was limited. The theory had always been very mysterious. It was believed that any individual was an aggregation that carried information. Height, weight, smell, size, and other factors formed the conditions for this individual to be observed. High-dimensional information form was a special thing. It was like a concept of information that had been stripped of an individual's physical existence, leaving behind only these information to form the basis of existence. Just like the classification of material life forms and energy life forms, it had become a new form of existence. Whether it truly existed or not was only related to the observer. For a specific group of observers, they could perceive this cluster of information. This was a real entity that could be touched. For ordinary people who couldn't observe, they couldn't obtain any information from the high-dimensional information form from any channel. It was like this person didn't exist, like a ghost floating in the world. Both parties couldn't interact with each other. There were various names for this principle, such as information closure, unobservable entity, and so on. At the same time, information closure wasn't limited to the sensory ability of the life form itself. It was also used on technology and magic. For example, one couldn't find files that should have existed, surveillance cameras couldn't capture the target, or group photos that were taken before losing the target's figure. This was because, including virtual technology, these detection devices and techniques were also carriers of information. They were tools used to obtain and store information. In essence, they were no different from the organs of a life form to sense the outside world. Information closure was used on both the life form and these tools. This was also the reason why the existence of information form was given the prefix high-dimensional. However, after a specific group of observers obtained the information, it was equivalent to filtering it and turning it into the observer's own information. Therefore, they could describe the existence of the high-dimensional information form to others. This was the only way to transmit information. However, even if others knew about it, they still wouldn't be able to perceive the high-dimensional information form itself. From the looks of it, he's not a complete high-dimensional information form. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the ability and wouldn't need to eat. Han Xiao pondered. His situation seems like he's only transformed halfway, causing the information he carries to mutate. His existence, in a conventional sense, has been erased, but he hasn't completely entered the high-dimensional information form. He maintains a certain physical existence and can still interact with some matter. This behavior is more like the awakening of a related Esper ability and temporary loss of control. Why would a perfectly normal person suddenly have an information form mutation? There must be some kind of trigger. Perhaps this is why Aesop foretold him. Get him to tell me everything that happened. Han Xiao came back to his senses, knocked on the table, and said in a deep voice. Currently, he could only rely on Harrison and Aesop as a relay channel to relay Rhodey's situation. Han Xiao quickly figured out the ins and outs of the matter and used the information form theory to explain what had happened to this person. This person's name was Rhodey Anchor, and he had always been living in Blue Star. Some time ago, he had mutated and gained part of the characteristics of a high-dimensional information form. He had tried to transmit information under various circumstances, but all of them had failed. He had no choice but to transform into an old fat otaku and live there for a few months. A few days ago, he had seen the missing person notice from the Black Star Corps. Therefore, he had excitedly sent countless messages to the Army's mailbox, but he had not received any reply. He had no choice but to step onto the spaceship and sneak over to Floating Dragon, planning to look for Han Xiao. Once a life form passed through his half-high-dimensional information form body, he would unilaterally read part of the life form's information, creating hallucinations similar to foresight, which would eventually cause him to faint. If he wanted to do anything to other people with his current body, it would be equivalent to tampering with other people's state of existence from the information level, using the information form to distort reality. This required a huge amount of energy, which he could not afford. Therefore, he would faint midway every time. This was a self-protection mechanism. Therefore, he carefully avoided all the passers-by along the way. However, when he arrived at Floating Dragon's dock, without making contact with anyone, he suddenly had a foresight image and fainted. This was how he appeared on Floating Dragon and was coincidentally seen by Harrison. Han Xiao captured the key information from this and pondered. He awakened foresight. Maybe the mutation of his information form came from the sudden appearance of his foresight ability? I think it's possible, Aesop said with a deep voice. Foresight ability can be seen as the ability to sense, process, and deduce information. In the mouth of us foreseers, there are also names such as fate lines, causality lines, and so on. Because foresight ability requires a lot of fate lines to be tightly entangled with a lot of fate lines, it's not impossible for it to cause one's own information form to mutate. You've touched on my blind spot. Han Xiao was a little troubled. Old man, your prophecy said that I had interacted with him a long time ago. Does that mean that I solved the mutation disaster and saved his life? Based on Rhodey's experience, Han Xiao thought of this possibility. How would I know? Aesop shrugged helplessly. If the prophecy was so accurate, why have I been caught by you in the past? Han Xiao squeezed his fingers hesitantly. He did think of a way to figure out the other party's situation, which was to extract his combat information. However, he had to first make contact with this person. It seems like if a normal person wants to observe a high-dimensional information form life form, they have to be closely entangled with the other party's information. He seems to be able to come into contact with dead objects. So, it's not a real high-dimensional information form that's almost unsolvable. I can't see the clothes he's wearing, which means that the clothes have been assimilated. Maybe I can start from this. After thinking about it, Han Xiao took out a mechanical suit, connected it with mechanical force, and tried to touch Rhodey. However, the experiment failed. Rhodey passed through without any resistance. The mechanical suit that accepted the mechanical force connection maintained contact with Han Xiao, so he was unable to touch the other party. He deactivated the mechanical force connection and let Rhodey come into contact with it again, but it still failed. Artificial intelligences are also observers, Aesop reminded him. Han Xiao had no choice but to deactivate the artificial intelligences in the mechanical suit. After experimenting again and again, When the virtual connection was completely cut off, Rhodey finally successfully put on the mechanical suit. The next moment, the mechanical suit disappeared right in front of Han Zhao's eyes. Seeing this, Han Zhao tried to use mechanical force, virtual technology, and other means to find the existence of the mechanical suit, but it was to no avail. This mechanical suit disappeared into thin air, just like that, also turned into a high-dimensional information form. Then, Han Zhao had Rhodey take off the mechanical suit, and the suit appeared on the ground out of thin air. After using all kinds of methods to test it, Han Zhao could not help but sigh. He's like an information black hole. I'm at my wit's end. Aesop had his hands on his hips, frowned, and said, "Is there really no other way? This thing can be called metaphysics or materialism, but it's too difficult to find a loophole." Han Zhao was a little helpless. Someone who could not observe Rhodey would not be able to create any information interaction. Combat was also a form of interaction. Even if Han Zhao hit him with a cannon, he might not be injured at all. Only when a neutral weapon that was not affected by any observer attacked him would he be fully injured. If not for the fact that this guy can't affect other non-observer life forms subjectively, he would be a terrifying infiltrator. Han Zhao clenched his teeth, looked at Harrison, and said, "Can you help me? Can you help me ask him what he wants me to do for him?" Harrison nodded, listened for a while, and repeated, "Your Excellency Black Star, he's begging you. He hopes that you can help him get out of this state." As soon as he said that, Han Zhao's heart skipped a beat. A notification popped up on the interface. "You have triggered the mission, Destiny's Child, Subbody Transformation. Mission Introduction, Rhodey Anchor, an ordinary person who worked hard, had a special mutation one day. He hopes that you can help him solve this problem. Mission requirements: resolve Rhodey's mutation and find the source of the mutation. Rewards: X2 random rewards, plus 80 Rhodey favorability. X2 character summon cards before Han Zhao could take a closer look at the mission. A thin, weak, middle-aged man appeared in front of him, sitting on a chair and looking at him with a hopeful expression. It was the victim, Rhodey, who had appeared out of nowhere. It had worked? Han Zhao was shocked. He did not have much hope, but he did not expect it to work. Being able to see Rhodey meant that there was an information entanglement between the two parties, and the source was definitely not just the other party's request. Han Zhao was sure that if the interface did not trigger the mission, even if he knew the other party's request, he would not have been able to see him. So, the interface became a bridge between the two parties, helping him complete the information entanglement. However, this was not what surprised Han Zhao the most. The reason was the name of the mission. Destiny's Child. Isn't that one of the trump cards of the Germinal organization in version 1.0? Although I've never seen it, I've gotten its character summon card before. How is this related to Destiny's Child? Wasn't that guy already dead? So, this is what Aesop meant by intersection. Han Zhao's mouth twitched, and thousands of words surged in his mind, but they all converged into one sentence. Amazing. Chapter 1137. Godly Mechanic, Hospital Escort. Today's update will probably be a little late. Please wait for a moment. Once the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1138. All of a sudden, surprise and doubt filled his mind. Decades had passed, but Han Zhao still remembered it clearly. He used to think that Destiny's Child was just a simple foreseer who died in a nuclear explosion of the Germinal organization. However, it seemed that Destiny's Child was hiding more secrets. Not only did he reappear in the Blue Star, but he was also related to the information form. Originally, he thought that the Germinal organization was already at its limit, having him, Gila, and Aurora. Who would have thought that Destiny's Child, who had died so early, was also not that simple? It was truly a place full of hidden talents. Even if the Germinal organization leader suddenly revived and jumped in front of him one day, he probably would not be surprised anymore. Destiny's Child, what exactly is he? Han Zhao was shocked. He could not rest assured until he understood the truth. This time, Harrison's voice sounded in his ears. Army Commander? Han Zhao came back to his senses and realized that the three of them were staring at him. In their eyes, Black Star suddenly went into a daze. Aesop shook his head and thought that he understood why Han Shao was silent. He explained, even the three universal civilizations only know a little about the information form theory and haven't been able to study it fully. I know this request might be a little difficult for you. Rhodey panicked and said with despair, then what should I do? If even His Excellency Black Star can't do it, who can save me? Good people, please help me convince His Excellency Black Star. I really don't have a way. Hearing that, Han Shao waved his hand. Don't worry, I'll try to help you. That's great. Thank you, Black. Huh? Rhodey subconsciously thanked him, but halfway through, he was stunned. He stared at Han Shao with his eyes wide open with shock and surprise. Aesop and Harrison were also shocked and looked at Han Shao in surprise. Army Commander, you can see him? Yes, I can. But you clearly. Did you find a way? But you didn't do anything. Aesop was surprised. Han Shao coughed dryly and said, a real high-dimensional information form life form can choose who observes them. It's possible that his strong will triggered the characteristics of his own information form and actively created an information entanglement with me. To put it simply, he subjectively moved me out of the blacklist. A question mark popped up above Harrison's head. His big eyes were filled with confusion. There was such a thing? Aesop thought about it and accepted this explanation. He muttered to himself, this makes sense. He may have inherited this trait, but he can't control it actively. However, he may be able to subconsciously influence it. Han Shao looked at him with a smile and silently cheered for the old man in his heart. That's the feeling. Please continue to imagine and help me convince yourself. Like a drowning man grasping at the last straw, Rhodey put his hands on the table and trembled with excitement. Thank you so much, he said in a trembling voice. Thank you so much. You really like what the news says. Not only are you a great man of Blue Star, but you're also a great man of the entire universe. You're too noble. To tell you the truth, in my 48 years of life, I only admire one person, and that's you. I've been looking up to you as a role model since I was young. You're the light in my life, the motivation to move forward, and the inspiration to grow up. After a series of compliments, Han Shao could not help but smile appreciatively. He loved to hear such honest words. But soon, he put away his smile and waved his hand, signaling Luo Di to calm down. You don't have to be so grateful to me. To be honest, I'm only helping you because I'm interested in your mutation and want to study it. As for whether I can cure you, I can't guarantee. I understand. I have nothing else to repay you with. I'll do my best to cooperate with your research. Rhodey nodded. Han Shao nodded with satisfaction. There was no free lunch in the world. It was convenient for Rhodey to know that. If Rhodey were to ask for help and act like he was paranoid, Han Shao might use a more forceful method and not cooperate unless he used violence. He stood up and walked around Luo Di, sizing him up from head to toe. Suddenly, he had a thought. That's right, I've already completed the information entanglement step with him. It should be fine to stab him now. With this thought, Han Shao immediately took action. He raised his finger, and a nanoparticle was compressed and formed into a thin metal needle. He flipped his wrist and carefully stabbed it into Rhodey's arm. The strength he used was similar to an ordinary person picking up an ant with their fingers, afraid that the ant would be crushed to death if they used too much strength. The thin needle retracted as soon as it touched him. Han Shao immediately looked at the interface. As expected, damage was dealt. The combat information appeared, and Rhodey's attributes were displayed. The target was just an ordinary person. His interface was extremely clean, and all of his abilities were within the range of an ordinary person. There were only a few lines of words, which was completely different from the interface of Super. Only one anomaly caught Han Zhao's attention. First, Rhodey's status bar maintained a special status, which was exactly the same as the mission name. Destiny's Child Sub-Body Transformation. The primal Esper ability entity Destiny's Child has set off an information form disturbance, randomly creating all kinds of sub-bodies in the entire universe. You are one of the chosen random numbers. A mutation will occur in your body. The characteristics of the information form will gradually appear in your body, and you will randomly be born with some of the related abilities of Destiny's Child. During the transformation process, not only will your body change, but your personality will also gradually change. When this process is over, you may lose most of your desires and emotions. You may lose your memories. You may believe in a false life experience. A brand new personality and a brand new self will be born in your body. Current transformation progress, 37. 1% Han Zhao's eyes widened as he caught the key information. Destiny's Child is a primal Esper ability entity, randomly creating sub-bodies in the entire universe. This was a little unexpected. On the super high-risk Esper ability list, there was no Destiny's Child. In his previous life, the players also did not discover any related information. Could this be a primal Esper ability that had not been discovered or publicized? Looking at the introduction on the interface, Han Zhao's imagination ran wild. If Destiny's Child has such a mechanism, the one in the germinal organization in version 1.0 should only be a sub-body and not a primal Esper ability entity. Rhodey hasn't completely transformed yet. Once he becomes a complete Destiny's Child sub-body, his personality will be replaced, and it might be another form of death. Han Zhao was deep in thought. Although he knew that the true face of Destiny's Child was a primal Esper ability entity, there were still many mysteries. Perhaps a Hun and Ah Sheng, who were also primal Esper ability entities, had information on this. Han Zhao told them to wait in the room while he went to another room, closed the door, opened the secondary dimensional army box, and took out the mysterious energy host. He also sent a long-distance message to Aurora and added the holy light particle into the chat channel. Black Star, why are you looking for us? Let's chat more. The primal chaos mysterious energy was very happy. He did not have a host and was almost bored to death in a metal carrier without a soul. I have something to ask you guys, Han Zhao said with a deep voice. Do you guys know a primal Esper ability entity called Destiny's Child? Considering the different names, Han Zhao specifically repeated some of the characteristics of Destiny's Child, which were all inferred from the information on the interface. Hearing this, the primal chaos mysterious energy and the holy light particle suddenly fell silent. After a while, they asked in confusion, "This guy? I think I've seen him before? Strange, did I sleep too much? I vaguely remember that I know him, but I just can't remember." This feeling was like suddenly realizing that someone looked very familiar, but they just could not remember who he was. Han Zhao narrowed his eyes and guessed. According to the intelligence, Destiny's Child had a lot to do with information forms. Maybe it's because of this that the two of you can't remember. The two of them tried their best to recall, hesitated, and said, "Maybe you're right. We can't remember any more information about it. We only remember that in our impression, there's a primal Esper ability entity that can switch between a physical form and a high-dimensional information form. It has the ability to predict the future and interfere with reality. Maybe this is the Destiny's Child you mentioned. It seems like I can't get any more information from them." Han Zhao's eyes moved, and he changed the topic. Then, do you guys know Soul Flame? It's also a primal Esper ability entity. I know this one. The primal chaos mysterious energy quickly answered, afraid that the holy light particle would take away the chance to talk. This guy comes and goes like a shadow. I haven't seen it many times. The last time I heard about it was during the exploration era. It seemed to have chosen a primordial one as its host, and then disappeared for many years. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. According to Aesop's intelligence, Oathkeeper was very likely the host of Soul Flame. He might even be the primordial one that the primal chaos mysterious energy was talking about. As long as he knew his identity, he would be able to see through Oathkeeper's true identity. Do you still remember who that primordial one is? Han Zhao quickly asked. I only remember his nickname. I think it's Soul Emperor, which means Emperor of Souls. He's a powerful psychic Esper, but he seems to have died in battle. Wow, this nickname sounds like it's not to be messed with. Han Zhao noted it down and planned to ask for internal information from the dynasty when he returned to investigate the life of this Soul Emperor. As for something as mysterious as Destiny's Child, the dynasty might not have records of it. Since Destiny's Child is a primordial Esper ability entity, and the Holy Covenant is an expert on primordial esper abilities, maybe it's not a bad choice to ask them. Han Xiao nodded and made up his mind. After completing the deal with the Holy Covenant, he would ask Oathkeeper about the origin of Destiny's Child. Maybe he could get some information from the Holy Covenant. Suddenly, he had a guess. Speaking of which, could Destiny's Child be in the hands of the Holy Covenant? I think there's a chance, but it's not high. Destiny's Child can create disturbances, so it should be free, not like it's being taken in. Hell, why worry so much? I won't lose anything by asking anyway. Han Xiao curled his lips. As for whether Oathkeeper could accept it or not, I think his mental fortitude should be pretty strong. After asking all the questions, just as Han Xiao was about to turn off the communication, he suddenly thought of something and said to the holy light particle, "Oh, right. I'm going to cut off a small piece of your body and use it to make a deal with someone else. I'm letting you know so that you can be mentally prepared." The holy light particle's light cluster froze in midair. It was like a bolt out of the blue. The primal chaos mysterious energy was stunned for a moment before laughing out loud in schadenfreude. "Who told you to laugh at me? You can't escape the same fate, ha!" The holy light particle was speechless. "So tired. I feel like I won't love again. P.S. I've chased this out. I still have to cook porridge and send it to the hospital later. I've cracked underscore, smiley face, angle, underscore." Chapter 1139. Han Xiao digested the information for a while before opening the door and returning to the interrogation room. Aesop, Harrison, and Rhodey all looked at him. "Your Excellency Blackstar, Rhodey wanted to ask, but Han Xiao raised his hand to stop him. "I already know your basic situation. Follow me for the time being. I'll try my best to solve your problem." As for how to deal with Rhodey, Han Xiao thought for a while. The current Rhodey was only a semi-finished product. He had not completed the transformation and could not control his own abilities. Perhaps only after the complete transformation could he become the germinal organization's child of destiny and have a powerful gift of prediction. However, once the transformation was completed, Rhodey's personality would mutate and be replaced by a new personality, which was equivalent to death in a sense. A stable and controllable diviner was far more useful than this half-baked one who fainted from time to time. However, since he had accepted the mission, he could not sit back and watch the transformation go smoothly. Therefore, Han Xiao decided to do his best and find a way to stop Rhodey's transformation. If he could not stop it, he did not mind getting a new child of destiny. Given Rhodey's current state, it was necessary to control his range of action. Han Xiao specifically asked Philip to open a new private laboratory above the spaceship. He asked Harrison to bring Rhodey there, lock him in a nourishment chamber, and inject him with a hypnotic agent to facilitate research. Rhodey had no choice but to hold on to his only hope and cooperate. After the two of them left, only Han Xiao and Aesop were left in the room. They looked at each other. "I saw you go out for a while. Did you find something?" Aesop was curious. The source of this guy's mutation might be due to the influence of a special primal esper ability. Han Xiao briefly explained some information about the Child of Destiny and his experience with the Germinal Organization. "Child of Destiny. Never heard of it," Aesop mumbled. "That's normal. I don't know much either." Aesop coughed and said thoughtfully, "I don't know much about your past, but assuming that the Child of Destiny you met in the past was a random product of the primal arcana like Rhodey now, why would there be two spawns on planet Aquamarine? If it's really random in the universe, do you think there would be such a coincidence?" "What's this? I've seen even more coincidences." This thought flashed through Han Zhao's mind, but he didn't show it on his face. He echoed, "It is indeed a coincidence." According to this train of thought, since the mutation happened at the information form level, I feel that Blue Star might have something special in this regard, such as the condensation of a special fate line or something. I'm not talking nonsense. I've seen many people who were born with different fate lines. Halfway through his sentence, Aesop stopped and sized up Han Xiao thoughtfully. "That's right. The Blue Star produced someone like you and another beyond grade A Hella. Your rise has caused the mother planet to become different. Perhaps this is the reason." Han Shao wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He just patted Aesop's shoulder. Smart people are so easy to fool. I didn't even have to use any force, and you've already convinced yourself. Thanks. If it weren't for your prophecy, I definitely wouldn't have discovered this. Jokes aside, Han Shao was still quite grateful for Aesop's notice. You don't have to thank me. Floating Dragon and Blue Star are neighbors now. I'm just ensuring the safety of the living environment. Furthermore, among the people I know, prophecies are the most effective in your hands. I believe in your ability and character. Aesop waved his hand. Hearing this, Han Shao could not help but feel like he was dreaming. In the past, Han Shao was quite envious of Aesop's powerful connections. However, as he gradually rose, he had unknowingly become the most important person Aesop knew. Whenever there was a problem, Aesop would be the first to discuss it with him, making him feel reliable. As he spoke, Aesop could not help but sigh. I've lived for so long and can be considered to have seen a lot, but you're the most amazing person in my long life. I've never seen another person as miraculous as you. The first time I saw you, even though I felt that your future was limitless, I never thought that in just a few short decades, you would reach a height that countless people could only dream of. Perhaps history will forget me, but it will never forget you. We were just talking. Why did you suddenly start bragging? It's quite embarrassing. Han Shao laughed and had a don't-stop expression on his face. Maybe I'm really getting old, and I'm getting more and more emotional. Aesop sighed and sincerely said, all these years, it's all thanks to you for helping Floating Dragon. Seeing this, Han Shao also stopped smiling and slowly said, my achievements can't be separated from Floating Dragon's nurturing. If not for Aim's protection, I wouldn't have been so successful. Therefore, there's no need to thank me. What I gave Floating Dragon is what I should give in return. Just like in business, it was easier to develop with a backer than to start from scratch. When he was still weak, Floating Dragon had been of great help to him. Therefore, although his current position in the universe far exceeded Floating Dragon's, he still maintained respect for Floating Dragon's members, treated them as equals, and never stopped supporting them. Having the opportunity to support someone like you might be Floating Dragon's fortune. Aesop's expression was complicated. There was helplessness and relief. Ames is like my daughter, but you also know that all I can do is foresight. I don't have as much power as you guys. The current you can protect her better than I can. I've lived for many years, and I've never begged anyone. But today, I'm begging you to protect Ames. I'll leave her to you. I hope that even after hundreds or thousands of years, you can still remember what you said today. Then, he looked deeply at Han Shao, pushed open the door, and walked out of the room. His slightly hunched back disappeared at the end of the corridor. Old man, Han Shao watched as he left. He let out a sigh of relief. He understood Aesop's intention. Although Aesop was a long-lived species, he was old and did not have much combat power. Even if he knew how to foresee, there was a limit to what he could do. He was far from omnipotent. He had foreseen a storm that could happen in the future, and the disaster in the prophecy made him feel a long-lost worry. He was afraid that he did not have the ability to protect Ames, so he was willing to put down his face and privately ask Black Star to be the protector of Floating Dragon. In Aesop's eyes, only Black Star had the motivation and ability to protect Ames at the same time. This was the best candidate he could find. However, Ames would definitely not say these words, so Aesop knew that only he could say it, and he had to say it. This was why the old man changed his usual behavior and took the initiative to ask for cooperation. He was shocked by his own prophecy. This old man suppressed his nature of seeking excitement and stayed in a boring place like Floating Dragon for decades. Although Ames grounded him in name, if Aesop wanted to leave, he would definitely have a way to leave. Now, because he's worried about Ames' future, he put down his face and came to beg me. Time will tell. Han Shao smiled. In his previous life, Ames destroyed Floating Dragon in order to take revenge. From the looks of it now, Aesop deserved such treatment. However, with Han Shao here this time, he would not let Floating Dragon repeat the same mistake. After sorting out his emotions, Han Shao returned to his office and summoned Philip. he still remembered to check the owner of Soul Flame. So he used his authority to retrieve the information of that primordial one, Soul Emperor, from the dynasty's database and quickly browsed through it. Soul Emperor's real name was Rovel Sisak. He also had nicknames like Soul Monarch and Secret Spirit Master. He was also one of the primordial ones. Before he became the owner of Soul Flame, he was already a powerful beyond grade psychic esper. This person was born in an advanced civilization and was a tyrant during the exploration era. At that time, the beyond grade had just been born. Compared to other types of abilities, psychic esper abilities that had broken through the calamity level were more difficult to deal with. The soul barrier that had not been upgraded could not stop Soul Emperor. He could easily penetrate the shields and armor to kill or control the crew. Very soon, he made a name for himself in the Exploration Era War. After obtaining the Soul Flame, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. With his powerful personal abilities, he had conquered many cities for his own civilization and won many local battles. He had made great contributions countless times and received innumerable awards and honors. He was regarded as a hero and protector by the entire civilization. However, as the advanced civilizations began to focus on researching beyond grade, as the short era, where the primordial ones were unparalleled, passed very quickly. The battles became more difficult, and beyond grade started to die. Soul Emperor was no exception. Although his performance was still strong, and he was still a powerful unit in the Galactic War, because he would be targeted every time he appeared, it was very difficult for him to play the same role as before. He could not rely on himself to change the situation of the war. Coupled with the fact that his civilization kept losing in other battlefronts, the overall strategy of the civilization was seriously affected. The advantageous situation was gradually eroded by the enemy. Therefore, Soul Emperor's combat style gradually became more aggressive. Sometimes, even if he was injured, he would still try to turn the situation around. Although it was not enough, one could see his vision and loyalty to contribute to the civilization. The primordial ones of the past were different from the current beyond grade, as many of them did not have the thought of being independent. In the Exploration Era War, the fate of an individual and the fate of a civilization were almost tied together. In the tireless battles, the turning point soon arrived. Soul Emperor's civilization and the many enemies used 2-star systems as the main battleground. They invested a huge amount of troops and started a decisive battle. Countless fleets tore at each other on one battlefront after another. The situation of the battle changed rapidly. At the most heated stage, this civilization had to make a choice. On one hand, Soul Emperor was targeted and was heavily surrounded. He was exhausted from the battle and urgently needed reinforcements. On the other hand, an extremely important battlefront was in danger and also needed reinforcements. If this battlefront collapsed, it would cause a chain reaction that could cause the entire battle to slide into the abyss of failure. On the other hand, if they defended this battlefront, they would gain a huge strategic advantage and have a much higher chance of winning. It was also because of this reason that the enemy was constantly sending reinforcements to this battlefront. Most of the troops of this civilization had already been invested in the battlefront, leaving only a small number of rapid reaction fleets that could attack. It was known that if the reinforcements were evenly distributed, there would be a chance of rescuing Soul Emperor, but they would definitely not be able to defend the important battlefront. This was when the choice came: how to distribute the troops, which side to focus on, and how to choose. For this civilization, this choice did not seem difficult at all. They gave up on Soul Emperor and chose to protect the overall situation, sending all the reinforcements to the important battlefront. The final result was just as they thought. They successfully defended the battlefront, revived the stalemate, and gradually defeated the enemy. In the end, they won this battle. Of course, the Spirit Emperor had sacrificed himself. The civilization claimed that the Spirit Emperor's sacrifice was the key to their victory. Therefore, the entire country mourned for him and worshipped him. They also hosted his funeral with the highest standard ceremony and awarded him the Valverde Gentile Medal, which represented the highest honor of the civilization. A monument to the Spirit Emperor was built on the mother planet to remember him. However, in the ever-changing Exploration-era war, there was no lack of enemies. The key victory of this civilization could not always be their protective talisman. In the end, this civilization did not become the winner of the Exploration era and was destroyed by a stronger civilization. They were almost wiped out and became the losers of elimination. These were the general details of Soul Emperor's life. The file had already marked died in battle. It was a long time ago, and the Exploration era was a time of war. The database of the three universal civilizations only had general information about Soul Emperor. There was no detailed information. As Soul Emperor's civilization perished, a lot of information about him was buried by history. After reading the information, Han Xiao fell into deep thought. He was already used to what happened to Soul Emperor and was only interested in the whereabouts of Soul Flame. Spirit Emperor is the last known owner of Soul Flame. Could this guy be Oathkeeper? Either Soul Emperor faked his death, or Oathkeeper was someone else who took Soul Flame from Soul Emperor. Therefore, there's a chance that he's one of the enemy beyond grade, as who participated in that battle, but there's also a chance that he picked up some scraps. This time, Han Xiao suddenly thought of the primordial ones who were resurrected in his previous life. Soul Emperor did not seem to be among them. His eyes sparkled. Looks like the possibility of Soul Emperor faking his death is not small. Han Xiaoxin pondered. Many primordial ones were resurrected in his previous life. If he waited until the calamity of the supers appeared, he might be able to find someone who knew. However, at this time, Han Xiao suddenly thought of something and was stunned. Wait a minute. Someone who knew was not just the primordial ones who were resurrected by the Holy Covenant. The underworld dimension that Hela inherited seemed to have the primordial hero spirits as well. That's amazing. Han Zhao's eyes widened. Every sip and every peck could be predetermined? Or could it be that collecting the luck glow owners could really improve the overall luck of the universe? Recommended. The 3,000 immortals who are older than you are. The title of this book gives off the feeling of being raised by a rich woman. I don't know if there's anyone who likes this book, but if you're interested, please read it. Chapter 1140. The Underworld Dimension has a lot of strong people from the Exploration era. Not only the primordial ones, but there are also supers from various races. There are many Calamity-grade supers, and they're all antiques. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. This group of people was not only useful as a combat force, but they were also witnesses of various periods of the Exploration era. They were also reliable sources of first-hand information and knew many ancient secrets. Aurora can only create life shells for these hero spirits when she reaches the beyond grade A realm. Speaking of which, the Underworld Dimension is a bit like the indestructible Mecha Empire. Although I can't summon the Underworld now, it shouldn't be a problem to communicate with their souls. I wonder how much of the Underworld Hela has recovered. Han Xiao still remembered that he had an Underworld Dimension mission. When the Underworld was fully recovered, he would receive Onislu's gratitude and a mark of the Underworld, becoming the third authority dog after the two sisters. I'll find a time to ask Hela and see if I'm right. Now that Hela had gone to the secondary dimensions, communication was not convenient. However, she should be back at the next Beyond Grade A meeting, so Han Xiao planned to ask her then. It was not long before the next meeting of the Development Union, so he did not need to go to the secondary dimensions to look for her. Soul Emperor faked his death, and he suspected that this was Oathkeeper's true identity. He had not decided if he should test him the next time they met. Beep beep. This time, Harrison sent a message, saying that Rhodey had been properly settled. Got it. Han Xiaoxin was quite happy. My intuition was right. This time, I did have a pleasant surprise when I returned to Blue Star. I discovered the secret of Destiny's Child, obtained a half-transformed subbody, and even obtained some key information from Aesop. However, Aesop's prophecy also made him feel pressured. It was as if he could see that a storm was brewing in the future. The higher the level of contact, the more secrets he knew, the more he could feel the turmoil and chaos hidden under the stable and prosperous surface of the explored universe. Han Xiao crossed his hands over his nose and pondered. I have to find a way to find out how the Red Empire's research on the World Tree Civilization's wormhole coordinates is going. After spending a few days as a guest on Floating Dragon Island and paying a visit to Bennett, Han Xiao took the fleet and set off again, heading toward the flickering world. On the dock, Ames stood at the edge of the track. The exhaust flames spurting out from the spaceship thrusters made her black dress dance in the wind like a rolling black fog. She led the Floating Dragon officers and watched as the Black Star fleet left the spaceport in an orderly formation. She slowly accelerated, turned into streams of light, and disappeared into the depths of space, out of sight. He left again. Ames retracted her gaze and exhaled softly. She lowered her head and looked at the data storage device in her hand. This was a gift from Han Xiao before he left. It stored an ultimate Esper knowledge. She turned around and saw that Ginny's face was ashen. She was clutching a tube of medicine in her hand, which was also a gift from Han Xiao. Why do you look so pale? What did he give you? Ames was curious. Nothing. Ginny's facial muscles tightened, and she revealed a ferocious smile. She hid the hair growth magic potion behind her back. Aesop stroked his beard, smiled, and said, Black Star gave me a gift as well. I'm starting to like him more and more. Beside him, 8 fist-sized floating weapons danced in the air. This was a product that Han Xiao had personally created. It was called Explorer, Multi-Purpose Life Protection Array. It had a full set of functions such as combat, defense, enhancement, life support, concealment, healing, hyperdrive, radiation shielding, and harsh environment isolation. It was especially suitable for solo explorers. With such a set of equipment, it was equivalent to having a guard team, a logistics team, and a galactic vehicle with them. Even an ordinary person would be able to survive in a Grade B environment for a long time. They would also be able to resist a Calamity Grade Super for a short while and have a chance to escape unscathed. As long as it was used properly, this set of equipment was enough to wipe out an ordinary surface civilization. It was not cheap, and the effect was very strong. Han Xiao had given Aesop 10 sets. Ames blinked and suddenly said, I heard that you privately asked Black Star to protect me? Aesop was stunned. He grabbed his beard and said, Who told you that? Who else could it be? Ames raised her brows. TSK, Black Star, this guy, doesn't know how to keep it a secret for me. Aesop had a headache and nodded helplessly. There is such a thing. I foresee that the era will change drastically. My ability is limited. Only Black Star has the ability. Before he finished, Ames interrupted him and said with a slightly heavier tone, I'm a beyond Grade A, and I can protect myself. Next time, before you consider for me, discuss it with me first. I don't like others making decisions for me. All right, consider my wishful thinking. Aesop raised his hands, indicating that he did not want to argue. Seeing this, Ames nodded. She suddenly paused, smiled, and said softly, However, I still have to thank you. But thank you anyway. I appreciate your kindness. She knew that Han Xiao took the initiative to say this because he did not want Aesop's intentions to be unknown. Furthermore, this matter could only be said by Han Xiao. It was impossible for Aesop to take the initiative to ask Ames for the credit. He was not such a person. Aesop also understood Han Xiao's intentions. His complaints immediately disappeared, and he felt a little touched. His impression of Han Xiao went up a level. Black Star actually considered my relationship with Ames. As expected of a talent who built such a huge foundation. This guy has life in his eyes. The fleet traveled for 10 days and finally entered the flickering world through a fast military stargate. On this day, the Beyond Grade A Association held a new round of regular meetings. A group of mechanics had missed many meetings because they stayed in the sealed ancient star desert to deal with the intelligent plague. Only now did Han Xiao and the others return. Development Union Headquarters, Planet Finn, Council Building. Han Xiao's remote projection landed outside the venue. He was wearing the Army Commander's black robe with golden edges. His muscular body made the robe look majestic. There is still some time before the official meeting, so not everyone had arrived. The remote projections gathered in 2s and 3s outside the venue, chatting casually. One of the original intentions of the Development Union was to build a platform for all the beyond grade as to facilitate communication. Other than the official meeting, private communication was equally important. As soon as he appeared, the venue fell silent. Everyone looked over with different gazes, and the atmosphere was a little strange. At this time, the old dragon Milizaus led some of the dynasty's allies over and shouted loudly, "Yo, Black Star, you're finally back." Han Xiao turned around, smiled, and greeted Baoni, Yining, and the rest of his acquaintances. After exchanging greetings, Milizaus praised, "What you did in the ancient star desert really impressed me. It's a pity that I'm not a mechanic and couldn't witness it with my own eyes." "That's right. It's such a pity that we couldn't participate in such a historic moment." Viru had a regretful expression. "If I was there, you wouldn't have fought alone. I would have definitely had a part in fighting Manison," Baoni said. Lotus Swordsman did not show any mercy and coldly said, "Forget it. If you were there, you would have been the first to die. You would have been a burden just like Kohler." "Kohler, why do you have to drag me into this? I didn't even say anything. It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. Keep a low profile." Hearing everyone's praises, Han Xiao waved his hands humbly. The aftermath of destroying the virus core made many allies see that Black Star's position had risen again, and he had gained more trust from the three universal civilizations. Thus, they all came to support him. This time, Milizaus looked around and said in a low voice, "Everyone thinks that you and Manison have fallen out. The president and the vice president don't see eye to eye, so there will definitely be different paths. The atmosphere in the association is very sensitive right now. No wonder everyone looked at me strangely just now." Han Xiao smiled and was not surprised. "Today is the first time you and Manison have attended a meeting together after falling out, so most people are watching and waiting to see a good show." Han Xiao shook his head and said, "Don't worry. The purpose of the Development Union is to mediate the conflicts between beyond grade as. Manison won't openly go against the rules, or else the foundation of the association will be damaged. This is something he can't accept. Thus, he has to put on an act. At most, he'll make things difficult for me verbally, but it's impossible for him to use the association's power to cause trouble. As for me, I don't need to provoke him. After all, I've even taken away the foundation of the Mecha Empire. It's not like I'm the one at a disadvantage." Han Xiaoxin chuckled and did not say the second half of his sentence. Milizaus did not deny it and slowly said, "Yes, that's for the best. Don't provoke him." In fact, after Manison revealed his intentions, there aren't many people in the association who support him anymore. His actions this time are too risky and many people don't agree with it. Once he succeeds, we'll all be implicated by him and be bound by a certain standpoint. Thus, there are many people who are resentful toward Manison. On the contrary, there are many beyond grade A members who support your actions. Most of them use the Development Union to form a group, hoping to obtain higher security and more benefits. However, to go against the three universal civilizations because of this, that's too unrealistic. Not many people are willing to take such a risk. Thus, you stopped Manison and established a closer relationship with the three universal civilizations. Many people are grateful to you, agree with you, and spontaneously stand on your side. Hearing this, Han Xiao looked around and exchanged glances with the members around him. He saw the goodwill in many people's eyes. As expected," Han Xiao responded. He had already thought through these twists and turned before. At this moment, a shout filled with anger suddenly sounded from the side. "Black Star, you're such a bastard." Everyone looked over curiously and saw Secret Master walking over with large strides. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and he looked like he was blaming Han Xiao. "What did I do to you?" Han Xiao was confused. "You're still playing dumb." Secret Master was furious. "You attacked my black market forces in the ancient star desert while the star field was sealed. I was following orders to prevent the virus from leaking." Han Xiao blinked. "Guess if I believe you or not." Secret Master's face was ashen. After the three universal civilizations removed the seal, he realized that his forces in the ancient star desert had been messed up by Han Xiao. He almost vomited blood. This feeling was like someone had come to his house to cause trouble and even locked the door. As the victim, he only realized it after his house was ransacked. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. "You've really misunderstood me," Han Xiao said confidently. "The three universal civilizations wanted me to control the black market channels and prevent the virus from spreading on a large scale. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so I had no choice but to use a thunderous method. Furthermore, now that the intelligent plague has been dealt with, I've already left. It was the three universal civilizations who tried to continue controlling the black market in the ancient star desert. For the safety of the universe, I took the initiative to take on such an offensive job. Even if I didn't do it, someone else would. Don't you think so? The thickest thing I've ever seen is your face." Secret Master clenched his teeth, full of resentment. He did not really want to blame Han Xiao. He knew that the three universal civilizations would not compromise in the face of a disaster. He could only blame himself for being unlucky. The location of the virus outbreak just had to be the ancient star desert. Secret Master also realized that ever since he interacted with Black Star, it was as if he had been tainted with bad luck. "I better stay away from Black Star in the future, lest he implicates me when he gets struck by lightning." Just as everyone was chatting, another remote projection descended. It was Manison, who was in the middle of a storm. Buzz. All of a sudden, the entire place fell silent. Everyone's gazes gathered, shifting between Manison and Han Xiao. Their eyes were filled with all kinds of emotions. The only thing these gazes had in common was the playfulness and mockery of watching a good show. Manison turned around, looking straight into Han Xiao's eyes calmly. Their gazes collided in midair. Manison's face was calm, as if the conflict between the two of them had never happened. He slowly said, "We meet again, Black Star. What a coincidence, Mecha Empire. I thought you would be so ashamed that you would be absent today." Han Xiao chuckled and teased. At this moment, he felt like he was more of a villain than Manison. On the side, Milizaus rubbed the dragon horns on his head in confusion. "Didn't we agree not to provoke the Mecha Empire? Did you treat my words like farts? P.S. I've been a little busy recently. Continue to promote my book, Daddy Nanny's Otherworld Restaurant. Author, Light Words of Jianghu. Very good results. Introduction. Here, elves and dwarves have to share tables. Orcs are forbidden from making noise. Dragons can only sit in the small square in front of the restaurant, and demons even have to bring their own special stools. However, such a strange restaurant has a long line in front of the door every day. Elves eat skewers without caring about their manners. Dragons sit in front of the hot pot with a colander, and demons eat cute dumplings. Chapter 1141. Manison was not angry. He sized Han Xiao up and nodded. "You're quite humorous. I'm the president of the Development Union. Even if you're absent, I won't be absent. What you're doing as the president is not right. Everyone supports you, not for you to gamble with everyone's interests." Han Xiao stood with his arms crossed and clicked his tongue. Previously, Han Xiao had praised the old dragon to the skies, but the moment they met, he had completely thrown away the idea of not provoking the Mecha Empire. Now, whenever he saw Manison, he would want to stroke the tiger's whiskers. Knowing the attitude of the association, he deliberately squeezed Manison to provoke dissatisfaction in the hearts of many people present. The results were great, and many people looked at Manison with even more unfriendly eyes. They were all big shots, and no one was willing to let others make decisions for them. The two of them had already drawn a clear line and resumed their competitive relationship. Damaging the other's reputation was secondary, and the main point was his own bad taste. Sigh, it seemed like it was the other way around. Radiance's allies present were the most embarrassed. Now, Manison was still Radiance's ally in name, but they could not and did not want to speak from the standpoint of the Mecha Empire. Those who supported Manison before were more or less unnatural now. Manison ignored the gazes of the people around him and calmly said, "Through this incident, I've seen through you. Our original intention of establishing the association was to gain more speaking rights and not be controlled by the advanced civilizations. However, although you say you're thinking for the beyond grade, as you're actually just a lackey of the three universal civilizations. Everything I've done is for the sake of the beyond grade, as, of course, it's impossible not to take the risk. Unfortunately, you want to please the three universal civilizations, but you don't want to lose your reputation and credibility among the beyond grade, as, so you chose to destroy our hope. In my eyes, it's just a selfish act of speculation. I won't have any more hope for you. Yo, who would have thought that the insufferably arrogant Mecha Empire would have moments of sophistry? As expected of someone who has lived long enough to know so much. Even your posture of twisting the truth is so proficient. Han Xiao did not take it seriously and said, "Unfortunately, justice is in the hearts of the people. Your slander of me is not valid. What the truth is, everyone has their own opinion. As the vice president, I have the obligation to stop you from leading everyone to the dark side." Do you really think you're a hero just because you put on the public opinion that the three universal civilizations created for you? You're speaking eloquently now, but I'm very curious. Will you have the face to attend the award ceremony for the entire universe in a while? Why not? If not for me, would the three universal civilizations have discovered the virus so early? How could they develop an antivirus program so quickly? Without me, the intelligent plague would still be spreading. In terms of contributions, I'm not much less than you, but the three universal civilizations didn't mention it at all. Their intentions are obvious. As soon as the conversation started, the two of them were at each other's throats. They're arguing. The beyond grade as watched from the side excitedly, wishing they could bring a small stool over to sit and watch the show. After a few words, Manison looked around and coldly said, "I'm not here today to quarrel with you today. The purpose of the association is to mediate the conflicts between beyond grade as. As the president, I need to set an example, so you can rest assured. Although we have our differences, I won't do anything to you." You make it sound so nice, but I think you're too busy dealing with the suppression of the three universal civilizations to continue provoking a strong enemy like me, Han Xiao joked. Manison narrowed his eyes and slowly said, "You seem to have taken the result of a tie seriously. As for what exactly happened, we both know very well in our hearts, but you seem to have an illusion. Do you really think you're on par with me? That's the truth, not an illusion." Han Xiao chuckled and eagerly said, "If you're not convinced, I'll entertain you anytime." So far, he had drawn quite a lot of good things from Manison, even his core exclusive talents. He had already tasted the sweetness of it and wished he could do it a few more times with Manison. The purpose of the development union is to mediate the conflicts between beyond grade as. I won't lower myself to your level. Manison was expressionless. He turned around and walked into the venue, too lazy to chat with Han Xiao anymore. Seeing this, Han Xiao secretly curled his lips. Old Manison really knows how to endure. If it was in the past, if I provoked him like this, he would definitely come over with a 40-kilometer-long machete to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. However, the Mecha Empire should be feeling very depressed. They clearly felt that they could defeat me, but they were forced into a tie by the three universal civilizations. They even had to patiently wait for the opportunity to get back at me, watching their prestige weaken. Not only did I obtain his core exclusive talent, but I also secretly obtained the incomplete map of the domino virus technology that he had been longing for. I even drew a new ability to restrain him. However, in Manison's heart, my combat strength is still the same as it was when we fought. If I fight with old Manison again, I'll definitely give him a surprise. While Han Xiao was secretly laughing, Kasui walked over and said, "It's been a long time since I saw you lose." I haven't seen Manison suffer in a long time. You're one of the few guys who can make him suffer. Han Xiao turned to look at him and said in surprise, "I thought you had a good relationship with Manison, but you seem to be quite happy." Kasui narrowed his eyes and smiled. Don't misunderstand. Manison and I have known each other for many years. We're indeed good friends, but he's him and I'm me. To be honest, I don't agree with his actions either. Even if you didn't stop him, I would have drawn a clear line with him after this. Han Xiao nodded. I just happened to be there. If not for this, the Mecha Empire and I might still be friends. Unfortunately, we walk different paths. I only hope this matter doesn't affect our friendship. Don't worry. The conflict between you and him won't affect our relationship. I don't mind the difference in ideals because everyone has something they want. However, although Manison's actions are criticized, he's right about one thing. The three universal civilizations are only using you to attack him. When the day comes when he's no longer useful, maybe what he has today will be your tomorrow. I know what I'm doing. You don't have to worry about this. While the two of them were talking, a third voice interrupted them with a faint smile on his face. So, when you're being used by an advanced civilization, you have to realize the benefits as soon as possible. This is my experience. The two of them turned around and saw that Sorokin had also come over. With his signature fake smile, he joined the conversation and gave a simple salute to the two shareholders. Oh, it's you. Han Xiao glanced at him. What do you have in mind? Your Excellency Black Star must be joking. I'm just an ordinary beyond grade A. How can I participate in such a topic? I don't have any good ideas. I'm just giving some suggestions from the perspective of a businessman, hoping to provide Your Excellency Black Star with some inspiration to deal with the current situation, Sorokin said enthusiastically. Humph! One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Han Xiao crossed his arms in front of his chest and pretended to size him up. You don't look like you're just here for a chat. Is there something wrong? Haha. Nothing can be hidden from Your Excellency Black Star's eyes. Sorokin smiled. I hope to discuss cooperation with you. Han Xiao only understood what Sorokin meant after listening to him. He secretly sighed at how shameless this person was. He had become the special consultant of the three universal civilizations and had the support of the three civilizations. Sorokin saw a business opportunity and wanted to look for him, this shareholder, to have a deeper cooperation. This shareholder position was forced by Han Xiao. Sorokin was originally unwilling, but seeing that there was profit to be gained, he did not hesitate to put down his pride and shamelessly came to discuss cooperation. Furthermore, the grudge between the two of them had not been settled yet he could act as if nothing had happened. His face had probably already left home on a spaceship. In the past few months, Han Xiao had been busy dealing with the intelligent plague, while Sorokin had been dealing with the dissatisfaction of the three universal civilizations. He had put in a lot of effort and finally settled the impact of the matter. Not only that, Sorokin had also shown that he was in line with the three universal civilizations' position through some fancy operations. He had also acted as a broker, sucking up to some of the officials with real power and radiance and ethereal. He had also used his seat as a director in the association to form new interests. Han Xiao suddenly thought of something. By the way, Manison is also a shareholder of the Wireless Financial Group. What he does should affect you, right? Can the three universal civilizations allow him to continue being a shareholder of the financial group? It does affect me, but that won't stop me from continuing to work with him. The regular dividends won't be stopped either. The three universal civilizations allow it. First, I'm a private and legal financial group, so I have the right to freely appoint personnel. Second, Sorokin smiled and did not say anything, throwing a you-know-what-I-mean look at him. Han Xiao immediately understood. No wonder the three universal civilizations did not mind the cooperation between them. They were using the limitless financial group as a channel to obtain information about the activities of the Mecha Empire. This was one of the conditions that Sorokin had to suck up to the three universal civilizations. Naturally, he did not want to work with Sorokin too deeply, so he gave a perfunctory answer to Sorokin's coaxing and pestering. After chatting for a while, it was finally time for the meeting. They entered the venue one after another, found their seats, and sat down. Han Xiao did not argue with Manison anymore. The two of them held the meeting according to the topics they had decided on, dealing with the matters one by one like normal meetings. However, although the two of them were doing their own things, the atmosphere in the venue was still strange. After the incident outside the venue, most people had a knot in their hearts, and it was difficult for them to return to normal. Very soon, it was time for the last topic. Manison looked around and said with a deep voice, "Because of the sudden outbreak of the intelligent plague, The battle between the three universal civilizations and the Supercluster Alliance was delayed for more than half a year. Now that the disaster has been resolved, the two sides will start fighting very soon. The Beyond Grade A Association needs to choose a side. As you all know, the three universal civilizations have been keeping the ultimate knowledge a secret. Their condition is for us to deal with the Supercluster Alliance. I don't plan to agree, so I suggest we stick to our original position and stay out of it, not participating in the battle between the advanced civilizations. Everyone nodded. Although they were dissatisfied with Madison, this was the consensus of most people, so there was no problem with it. As for the direct members of the three universal civilizations, they usually would not express their opinions at such times. After all, there was no point in doing so. However, this time, Madison turned to look at Han Xiao and suddenly said, "Vice President, what do you think?" Han Xiao's eyes flashed, and he pondered. He realized the intentions of the Mecha Empire. He was now at the center of public opinion. The three universal civilizations had put him on a pedestal, hoping that he would become their spokesperson in the development union. Not only did they want him to compete with Madison, but they also wanted him to speak up for them in the association. However, one of the original intentions of the association was to help the Beyond Grade as break free from the camp restrictions set by the advanced civilizations and not be used as tools to kill each other. On this issue, Han Xiao realized that there would be negative effects no matter which side he chose. Sticking to the consensus of everyone was not a problem on the association side. Although the three universal civilizations were not surprised, they would more or less feel disappointed, which would affect their support. The other allies could choose this way because they were the majority, but his identity was the role model. The same action would have different effects. If he spoke up for the three universal civilizations and instigated everyone to deal with the Supercluster Alliance together, the result would be worse. He would appear to be completely on the side of the three universal civilizations and really become the lackey of the Mecha Empire, which would definitely cause dissatisfaction. Furthermore, the path he represented would change because of this. It would no longer be a peaceful coexistence, but a fawning relationship. It would go against the original intention and return to the original path. Han Xiao looked up and saw that everyone's eyes, including the direct members of the three universal civilizations, were focused on him. They clearly understood this and were waiting for his response. Madison's question wasn't a ploy. It was just an honest attempt to borrow the enemy's strength. Of course, I agree with everyone's consensus. This is the reason we're gathered together. However, I want to deal with one of the supercluster civilizations, so I have some personal grudges. Han Xiao spoke calmly. He was very realistic, so he naturally would not stand on the wrong side at a time like this. When the three universal civilizations publicly supported him, Han Xiao knew that he would encounter this hurdle sooner or later. He had to be tested by the other Beyond Grade as to ensure that he did not change his mind. Hearing his answer, everyone looked away with satisfaction. After discussing business, the regular meeting ended and the Beyond Grade as went offline one after another. Han Xiao did not leave immediately. He pulled Hela, who had been watching from the side, and found a room to close the door. "You're back." Hela sized Han Xiao up. "You seem to have lost weight. I should be the one saying that to you. How's the underworld?" Han Xiao smiled. "It's already stabilized and is slowly recovering. By the way, I have something to tell you. It's about the underworld." "What a coincidence. I also have something to ask you about the underworld, but you go first." Hela nodded. "All right. Have you heard of the Sanctum?" Han Xiao was shocked and subconsciously covered his heart. At this moment, he suddenly understood how Oathkeeper felt. Author's note: another year is about to pass. There will be a double event at the end of the year. Chapter 1142. What did you find out about the Sanctums? Han Xiao was surprised. "The underworld told me." Hela briefly repeated Onisilu's words. Seeing Han Xiao's reaction, she could not help but snort. "So, you already knew about the Sanctums, but you didn't tell me." "Ahem, that's because I didn't know everything. I was still investigating in private." Han Xiao coughed dryly, his brain working quickly. Hella's news gave him a pleasant surprise. He originally only wanted to ask about Soul Emperor from the underworld hero spirits, but he did not expect to get new information about the sanctums. According to Hella, someone had invited the two sisters to participate in the operation against the sanctums. This meant that some primordial ones had more information about the sanctums, but the two sisters did not participate. Later on, for some reason, there seemed to be a gap in the information about the sanctums, and fewer people knew about it. Furthermore, Han Xiao also learned an important piece of information from Hella, which was that one of the functions of the sanctums was to revive the dead. This was the first function of the sanctums that he knew, and he finally uncovered a corner of the mystery. Holy Covenant Organization, revived primordial ones, sanctums. Han Xiaoxin finally felt that there was a thread that connected everything. No wonder Oathkeeper behaved like that. He did not connect the two before because he did not know the specific functions of the sanctums. Now he finally had a clearer understanding of the Holy Covenant Organization, no longer limited to superficial knowledge. One of the rewards of my Primal Esper Ability Collector milestone mission is the Third Sanctum Ability Fragment. The two are somehow related. So the real goal of the Holy Covenant Organization to collect Primal Esper abilities is to open the sanctums and revive the strong. Han Xiao thought. Seeing that Han Xiao was deep in thought, Hella frowned and asked, "Is this information useful to you?" "Yes, very useful." Han Xiao came back to his senses and said with relief, "Actually, I've been secretly investigating the sanctums. You've helped me a lot this time. Well done. As long as it helps you." Hella loosened her brows, nodded slightly, and asked, "Then what did you want to talk to me about?" "Haha, coincidentally, I also want to ask the underworld heroic spirits for information. Now, I have one more question to ask. Do you need me to awaken the heroic spirit immediately? Will this affect your development? As long as you need it, I don't care." Hella didn't hesitate at all. "What are you saying? The underworld is your inheritance. Don't just think about me." Han Xiao shook his head and said helplessly, "Let's not be in a hurry. Let's wait until you restore the underworld." Now, Hella was like a jungler. He had the advantage in the lane. Han Xiao did not intend to delay Hella's development. It would not be too late to call for help when needed. It's up to you. In short, just let me know when you need me. "I'll help you at any time," Hella said faintly. "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Han Xiao nodded, changed the topic, and said with a smile, "By the way, I brought you a gift this time. You should like it." Hella's eyes sparkled. "What is it?" "I've reached an agreement with the 3 universal civilizations. I can exchange 3 Esper ultimate knowledges for you. I brought you one this time. I'll get Philip to send it to you later." "Okay." Hella's lips curled up, revealing a slight smile. She was very satisfied with this gift, and she was even more satisfied that Han Xiao remembered her performance when he went on a business trip. After chatting for a while, Han Xiao went offline. Deactivating the remote projection, his vision returned to his original body, which was in the command room of the flagship. At this time, the fleet was advancing in the Dawn Star Cluster. It was estimated that they would arrive at the edge of the Geru Star Cluster in a few days and return to the Army's territory from planet Blackgate. Standing by the huge floor-to-ceiling window, Han Xiao looked at the starlight outside and recalled the situation during the meeting. Manison's risky move has caused him to lose the support of the association, and his connections have been affected. If nothing goes wrong, it'll be very difficult for him to be re-elected as the president in the election 50 years later. However, old Manison isn't the type to sit still and wait for death. He's busy dealing with the suppression of the 3 universal civilizations, but he won't be passive all the time. He'll definitely come up with other plans to improve his situation. With his philosophy, it's impossible for him to admit his mistake and return to the embrace of the Radiance. That will only cause suspicion, and he can't return to the past. He'll probably return to being an independent faction like in my previous life, but this time, it won't be limited to the calamity of the Supers version. He'll be completely marginalized. Even if he doesn't cancel the alliance on paper, the 3 universal civilizations won't be able to put him in an important position anymore. Han Xiao thought to himself, Manison's risky move had caused him to lose his backer. However, he was his backer, so he had the confidence to do so. If he had not taken the initiative to reveal the core of the virus to the three universal civilizations in order to reduce the damage caused by the disaster, Manison would not have taken a risk and would still be a comfortable ally. With this thought in mind, Han Xiao opened the interface and looked at Key of Adeptus Mechanicus. The impact of their fight was obvious. As the machinery believers on planet Magnetic Cloud vigorously spread the news of him being on par with Manison spread widely within the machinery faith, shaking a small portion of Manison's faith and attracting a new batch of believers for himself. After this period of time, the bonuses of Key of Adeptus Mechanicus had increased by quite a bit. The range of bonuses of this talent was very comprehensive, basically covering all aspects of the machinery ability. Currently, his machinery affinity had increased by around 600%. Other than luck, all his other attributes had increased by a few hundred points. At the same time, according to the inclination of his believers, his machinery ability in the armed, virtual, and many other fields had also received targeted bonuses. Other than that, his efficiency in manufacturing, repairing, and strengthening had also increased. The efficiency of different types of machinery in his hands had also increased. There were many aspects of this talent, and the range of bonuses was so comprehensive. The range of bonuses was still increasing as the number of believers increased. Han Xiao did not know if there would be an end to it. My personal bonuses are secondary. Han Xiao's eyes moved, and he chuckled. The increase in his Key of Adeptus Mechanicus meant that he had taken away a portion of the Mecha Empire's believers, causing the effect of Manison's talent to decrease. The longer I get, the shorter Manison gets. As this went on, the gap between Manison and everyone else gradually narrowed. I might not be the most profitable, but Manison is definitely the one who suffers the most losses. After a few days of sailing, Han Xiao finally led his fleet to the entrance of the army's territory, planet Blackgate. He planned to rest there for half a day before heading to the Blackstar Cup. During the time that he was not around, the construction of the army's territory had progressed steadily, and the Blackstar Cup had started smoothly. The members who had been eliminated in advance had returned to their posts, and the players who had been eliminated had returned to the fourth phase of the flickering world to continue occupying strongholds. Everything was in order. Now that most of the Blackstar Cup matches had ended, there were only two important matches left. They were the Calamity Group's individual matches and the Player Group's four-way team matches. The former two contestants were the elite Black Star Guards under Han Xiao. One was the old bootlicker Hardaway, and the other was the new bootlicker Jataina. Both of them had the strength of a beyond grade A seed and stood out among the many Calamity grades in the army. Not counting Han Xiao and Hela, these two were already publicly recognized as the strongest in the army. Originally, Logi and Loathair both had the ability to compete for the position of Chief Calamity grade under the army, but Logi chose to give up during the audition. Due to his position, it was not convenient for Loathair to appear in public and did not participate in the Blackstar Cup. As for the other Calamity grades, none of them were a match for Hardaway and Jataina. Even Fu Ding and Nero, who had the Luck Glow, were the same. Luck was not enough to make up for the difference in strength. As for the players, they were Frenzied Sword's Rivervale Battle Team, King Admiral's Dynasty Battle Team, Rainy Kim's Thunderstorm Battle Team, and a group of solo players. Of the four biggest clubs in China, only one had made it to the finals. As the Blackstar Cup was more flexible, it was much more random and dramatic than the official league. Usually, in a four-way battle, the biggest clubs would always be attacked by the other three. Thus, Long Sky, Temple of God, and Fried Eggplants with Fish were all defeated and taught a lesson by their passionate fans. At this moment, the fleet stopped at the public dock of Planet Blackgate. As soon as Han Xiao got off the spaceship, he saw Sylvia welcoming him at the dock. There was a cordon around them, and many curious passers-by were watching from the outside. There was no lack of army warriors and players among them. Not only that, there were even couplets above their heads. On the left was Iron Shoulders Carry Righteousness, and on the right was Compassion plays the role of the common people. What the F asterisk CK? Han Xiao was dumbfounded. He returned to the cabin, closed the door, and opened it again to make sure that he was not hallucinating. Did I open the door the wrong way? Just as he was in a daze, Sylvia walked up to him and bowed solemnly with a group of officers. She shouted the slogan loudly, as if she was afraid that no one could hear her. "Welcome back, Army Commander." Han Zhao's mouth twitched. He did not need to ask to know that this was definitely Sylvia's doing. It did not matter if others praised him, but it was too embarrassing for his subordinates to praise themselves. Furthermore, this was a public place, so he felt like he had turned into a celestial being. Why is there such a scene again? Han Xiao pulled Sylvia over and whispered into her ear, speechless. This is an essential welcome ceremony. Letting the entire army know that you have returned after your meritorious service will strengthen the members' sense of identity, Sylvia said seriously, but the crazy upturned corners of her mouth betrayed her inner thoughts. Han Xiao was a little annoyed. He quickly pulled Sylvia toward the dock exit and changed the topic. The Black Star Cup is finally coming to an end. How's the preparation for the closing ceremony? Now that they were talking about business, Sylvia stopped smiling and said, "It's all arranged. When the time comes, we'll need you to give a speech and personally commend the winners of each event." So many events. How many people will that take? Sylvia rolled her eyes. You asked for it, hero. All right, I'll be there when the time comes. Han Xiao had no choice. Also, I suggest that you watch the last 2 matches in person. Since you're back, it's best that you attend the finals and show the importance you place on the competition. Anyway, it's not like we're in a rush. We'll do it together. The group hurriedly left the dock. In the crowd, a group of players stretched their necks to look at Han Zhao's back. Many people around recognized them. This group of people was the gold team that had entered the Black Star Cup Immortal 4-Way Battle Royale. They were a group of solo experts, and because of their dazzling performance in the Black Star Cup, they had attracted many fans. After sending Han Xiao off with their eyes, the members of the gold battle team looked at the mechanic in the middle. We really met Black Star here. How is it? Has the character summon card been generated? What ability did you engrave? Everyone asked at once. They had gathered here today to let a mechanic with a blank character summon card engrave Black Star's ability to obtain a trump card for the finals. Because beyond grade, as were very elusive, they had originally planned to engrave a Calamity Grade Super. However, their army commander had coincidentally returned, and no one was more suitable than Black Star to be the target of a blank character summon card. Don't worry, it's still being generated. This mechanic opened the team display function on the interface and stared at the interface nervously with everyone else. After waiting for 2 or 3 seconds, a notification finally popped up on the interface. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and they hurriedly looked over. You have received Character Summon Card, Black Star. Character Summon Card Ability, Trillion Mecha Empire, Manison. Usages, 0/1 inch. At this moment, everyone's faces were filled with question marks, and their hearts were filled with confusion. What's going on? Weren't we supposed to loot Black Star? Why did the Mecha Empire appear? At this moment, the few of them suddenly trembled. They looked at each other and saw fear in each other's eyes. They felt as though they had discovered a shocking secret. There was only one explanation for this situation. The army commander had been swapped out. That Black Star must be fake. Chapter 1143. An hour later, in the dim room, the green candle flame on the table was the only source of light. The flame flickered and flickered as it was blown by the airflow, illuminating the faces around the table in a pale green color, leaving mottled shadows. It looked very eerie and terrifying. Above the candle flame, a public interface floated, showing the introduction of the Black Star character summon card. The captain of Team Gold, whose ID was flying free, was a veteran player who had entered the game in version 1.0. At this moment, he had a worried expression on his face as he spoke in a low voice. I didn't expect to discover such a huge secret. Everyone, what should we do now? What else can we do? Quickly announce it. But this is our trump card for the finals. If we announce it, Won't we be exposed? Look at the situation now. Why do you still care so much? Compared to the safety of the entire army, the victory of the competition is no longer important. Don't you know what's more important? While everyone was arguing, a female player suddenly raised her hand weakly and asked, I have a question. Why don't we turn on the lights and only light candles? We need such a dark environment to talk about such an important matter. That's how it is in movies. I understand the logic, but why do we only light candles? Another team member scratched his head. We might be the only ones who have discovered the truth. The atmosphere has to be serious. Do you understand the sense of ceremony? Another team member said, I see. But why do we only light candles? Enough. Flying Free cannot take it anymore. He got up and went to turn on the lights, pulling the topic back. After obtaining the Black Star character summon card, the hearts of the members of Team Gold were shaken. They quickly returned to the stronghold to discuss what to do. In terms of how to deal with this problem, the entire team was divided into two factions. One side felt that they should keep the secret until after the finals. The other side felt that this matter was of great importance and should be announced on the forums immediately, reminding all the army players that their faction leader had been swapped. Although it was not easy for them to enter the Black Star Cup finals, after discovering the secret, the competition immediately lost its interest. Everyone's attention was completely attracted by the mystery of the army commander's identity. The character summon card was marked with the prefix Black Star, but no one dared to guarantee that this wasn't the target's disguise. After all, there had been similar cases before. A blank character summon card's name would usually only show the target's current identity, which meant that it wouldn't be able to see through the disguise. For example, if a blank character summon card was used on Sorokin or Oathkeeper, it would only display Sorokin character summon card or Oathkeeper character summon card. It would not reveal their true identities. Therefore, in everyone's eyes, this ability with the suffix Manison was obviously more convincing. Boom! Flying Free slammed the table and said firmly, I think that we should immediately announce this news. We have no chance of reaching the finals in the official league, but the Black Star Cup gives us a chance. Even if we lose the finals, we'll still be in the top 4 and gain a lot of popularity. If not for the Black Star Cup organized by the Army, all of this would not have existed. As the old saying goes, don't forget the person who dug the well when you reap the benefits. The competition rewards are only a small benefit, but protecting the entire army is the biggest benefit. Furthermore, over the past few versions, how many benefits has the army commander brought to us? How many people like this character? He might be in danger now. So how can we sit back and do nothing? Now, the opportunity to save the army is in our hands. Many of the solo players present were hardcore Chinese players. They had deep feelings for the army and had long treated it as their own faction. For a hardcore like Flying Free, in order to protect the army in Black Star, he was even willing to give up the benefits of the finals just to remind everyone. Because the number of people he had was not enough, it was better to gather the strength of the army players and think of a way to destroy the Mecha Empire's scheme together. Hearing this, everyone thought of the past and suddenly felt their blood boil. A belief rose in their hearts. At this time, Flying Free stretched out his hand. Everyone understood and put their hands together. They looked at each other and saw a strong sense of responsibility in each other's eyes. Now, it's our turn to save the army commander. After shouting this slogan, Flying Free immediately opened the forums and started writing a post. Without hesitation, he wrote a title, Secrets of the Century, The Unspeakable Secret of Black Star and the Mecha Empire. The fleet rested on planet Blackgate for half a day before setting off again, heading toward the final venue of the Black Star Cup. In the cabin, Han Xiao and Sylvia talked about work for half a day before waving for Sylvia to leave. He was the only one left in the room. He leaned back comfortably on the chair, opened the forum, and began his daily observation of the idiotic netizens. Let me see what's the happy meal today. Han Xiao hummed a tune as he entered the forums. With one look, he was instantly dumbfounded. At a glance, all of them were urgent requests for dissemination. The army commander's identity is a mystery. The Mecha Empire's shocking conspiracy. Emergency. The Black Star Corps might change hands. Save the Army Commander. The entire flickering world was flooded with similar posts. What the hell is all this? I haven't looked at the forums for half a day. What happened? Han Xiao was confused. He opened the most popular post and saw that the person who posted it was an ID that he recognized. It was the captain of the gold team, flying free. At the beginning of the post was a high-definition screenshot. It was the introduction of the Black Star character summon card. Seeing the name of the ability of Billion Mecha Empire, Manison, Han Xiao immediately understood what was going on. His mouth could not help but twitch. It can't be. I have thousands of abilities, and this just had to be drawn by a blank character summon card? What kind of luck did these people have? Speaking of which, I just came back. When was this drawn? Could it be that I was touched at the dock? He continued reading, and, as expected, Flying Free explained what had happened. Hello, everyone. I'm Flying Free from the Gold Team. Just an hour ago, we discovered a shocking secret. Not long ago, when the Army Commander returned to the territory, our team blended in with the crowd and planned to use a blank character summon card to record Black Star's ability. Originally, we wanted to use it as our trump card in the upcoming Black Star Cup finals. However, as you can see in the screenshot, we did not expect to draw the ability of the Mecha Empire from Black Star. This shocked all of us. We couldn't understand this situation. After some discussion, we came to a shocking conclusion. The current Army Commander might be the Mecha Empire in disguise. His goal is to replace Black Star and usurp the throne of our Army Commander. In the end, we unanimously decided to immediately publicize such crucial information. We need everyone to unite to find out the truth and unravel the conspiracy. Everyone, the future of the Army Commander is in our hands. Han Xiao had a constipated expression on his face. This deduction did not seem unreasonable, but why did he still feel that there was something wrong with these people's brains? He looked at the replies below. It had already exploded, and countless people were doubting him. Is this for real? This picture can't be photoshopped, right? It must be photoshopped. These young people want to create big news every day. Are you guys thinking that there's no hope of winning, so you want to do something stupid? Good job. I'll reward you with a piece of earwax. It's over. Someone is going to change their name to the Mecha Empire. Facing the doubts, Flying Free added in the popular replies, I know everyone must have their doubts. On the day of the finals, we will use this character summon card and show it to everyone to make them believe that the Army Commander needs us to save them. Save your grandma's leg. Han Xiao gritted his teeth and returned to the page. He quickly browsed through the related posts and found that other than the doubters, there were many posts seriously analyzing this possibility. Frowny face Reinhardt. Maybe it's true. The Mecha Empire definitely has the motive to do this. Didn't they have a conflict in the ancient Star Desert some time ago? Could it be that the Mecha Empire attacked the Army Commander after that? Pikachu! If this is fake, then where is the real Army Commander? Was he killed? Wolffire? Probably not. After all, the Army Commander is so tanky. I think the Mecha Empire just exiled him and won't be able to return for a while. That's why he dared to pretend to be Black Star. Foot-scratching hippo. Do you all agree that the Army Commander has been swapped? Could it be that Black Star used some method to learn the Mecha Empire's ability? Smelly Footbuster. The possibility is too low. After so many years, this is the first time a blank character card has drawn a unique ability from Black Star. 0 to the 0. Could it be that they made a deal to teach each other their unique abilities? My dog is called Loggy. So, if we use a blank character card on the Mecha Empire now, it's possible to draw Indestructible Body. Black Star? Good brother Pat's big. Damn, that's awesome. You're a F** King Genius. Han Xiao felt his teeth ache. Ice Tornado. Wait, there are other possibilities. Could it be that Black Star's ability was taught by the Mecha Empire from the start? Blueberry. That's shocking. That makes sense. If Black Star was a secret disciple of the Mecha Empire from a long time ago, his rapid rise can be explained. Shadow Stream Execution Song. From the looks of it, the falling out some time ago was just a two-man show. One jumped the other pretended to be loyal, but they were in cahoots behind the scenes. That's too showy. TSK. I understand now. The Mecha Empire has a big conspiracy. They're playing a big game of chess. What do you understand? Veins popped out on Han Zhao's forehead. Sanguine rose. I can't take it anymore. I can't hold back my curiosity. What happened between Black Star and the Mecha Empire? Paradise Disco. Let me remind you, if I ask the Legion commander directly, will I be killed? Although I'm not afraid. Port bun beats dog. Ah, my eyes see through everything. A storm is brewing. This secret may lead to a new main storyline. I have a feeling that the theme of the next version will be the division of the Black Star Corps. I have material again. You're the one who's divided. Your whole family is divided. Han Xiao felt that if he grabbed these players and shook them, he would definitely be able to hear the sound of liquid sloshing around in their heads. He glanced through and suddenly saw a new post. The title was Army Rescue Plan, Call to Action. He clicked on it and saw that it was another post by that freelance shit thrower. Brothers and sisters, the Black Star Corps has accompanied us for 4 versions. This is our faction. We can't let anyone take away the fruits of our hard work. Unfortunately, the officers of the army won't believe us. Only the players can see our evidence. For this reason, I've decided to start a righteous rebellion. While the Black Star Cup commendation ceremony is being broadcasted live to the entire universe, I'm going to stand out and expose the true face of the Mecha Empire. Therefore, I need everyone's strength. Although we're far from being a match for a Beyond Grade A, we can use our lives to let the entire universe see the scheme of the Mecha Empire. All those who are willing to participate, leave your name in this post and contact us. Everyone, draw your swords. It's up to us to save the army now. Although I'm dead, I'm still a pawn under the Black Star. Manison of the Mecha Empire, show your health bar. Han Xiao was dumbfounded. Scrolling down, the number of replies to this post was increasing at a rate of 100 per second. Countless people were extremely excited and clamored to sign up. Who knew how many of them were people who wanted to see the world burn? What the F*** CK? Are they trying to stab me in the back? Han Zhao's expression was extremely complicated. He did not know if he should be hurt or touched. After this incident, it could be seen that the results of my 4 versions were very obvious. I've already formed a deep bond with the Chinese players. These players are willing to go to such lengths for me. It's really touching my ass. There's such a thing? After reading the post twice, Han Xiao clenched his teeth. You don't say. This post made my blood boil. Damn it, a mental patient really has a lot of fun. The error-free chapters of Legendary Mechanic will continue to be updated. There will be no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the Legendary Mechanic. If you like Legendary Mechanic, please bookmark Legendary Mechanic. The Legendary Mechanic fighting bar updates the fastest. Chapter 1144. Han Xiao could not help but rub his temples as he felt a headache coming on. Players were the embodiment of chaos. Even if they had become members of their own faction, they were still uncontrollable. Even if their intentions were good, their subjective initiative would always cause all kinds of unimaginable things. The atmosphere of the entire forum section was led astray by this topic. Han Xiao even saw titles that seemed to be pornographic, which showed the power of a few blind people. After being depressed for a while, Han Xiao suddenly laughed. These people really know how to cause a ruckus, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. He thought for a while and suddenly realized that there was no need to stop them. Not to mention that the players were communicating on the forum. He could not use this as evidence to arrest them. How could he hold a commendation ceremony if he arrested them? Furthermore, this was not a bad thing for the sense of belonging to the army. If not for the fact that the hardcore players loved and respected him, why would they volunteer to save him? Running a warlord force in the universe did not need to be like a tinkerer. Instead, letting the players cause a ruckus during the closing ceremony would increase the topic of the Black Star Cup and increase the popularity of public opinion. It would also save him the effort of giving out missions and acting on his own. Flying Free's loyal subjects wanted to do a round of righteous backstabbing. But in the eyes of Han Xiao, they were no threat at all. He was happy to play along with them. The public image of the Black Star Corps in the universe was basically equivalent to that of a righteous person recognized by everyone. The people were now very tolerant of the army. Even if this small episode happened at the end of the Black Star Cup, it would not affect the army's prestige. Instead, it would make most of the people feel that it was interesting. The reputation that they had accumulated over the years was not for nothing. This was the armor of public opinion. In fact, Han Xiao understood after thinking about it carefully. He did not need to explain the rumors circulating among the players to anyone. This was not a problem in his eyes at all. He was the leader of the faction, a top warlord in the universe. He was not really swapped. If he had to carefully explain himself in the face of such strange accusations, wouldn't it be a joke? It was like the famous Chuan Jiangwo in history in his previous life. Did he really need to explain himself to the public? Of course not. Everyone just needs to know that he's a comrade. The evidence of the player's suspicion was the effect of the character summon card. It seemed reasonable from their perspective, but as long as they looked at the overall situation, this suspicion was not valid. If the Mecha Empire had really swapped him, there were too many flaws that could not be explained. For example, the senses of the other beyond grade as were not for decoration. The three universal civilizations would definitely have discovered it. The army's artificial intelligence Philip would not have no reaction at all, and the other party would not have been able to activate his dimensional army box. No one in the universe could impersonate another peak beyond grade A without any flaws. Even Kant, the illusion god, could not do it. Some players did not understand the common sense between these big shots. Therefore, their accusations might be treated as gossip by the galactic residents. However, only a fool would really believe them. Non-players could not see the interface. Their evidence was something that did not exist for ordinary people. Han Xiaoxin was very knowledgeable. The main reason why the players believed in this rumor was that it was still fresh. Once the initial fanaticism and blindness disappeared, they would see that there was no change in the faction's movements. This ridiculous rumor would naturally fall apart. How could there not be any strange rumors about the big shots? Explaining was unnecessary. It was better to leave some room for the players to fill in the gaps. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. To the players who purely enjoyed the benefits of the faction, it did not matter who was in charge. Therefore, to be willing to take the risk of being punished by the faction to expose the conspiracy of the Mecha Empire was tantamount to sacrificing one's life. Then, wouldn't the more people who participated in this operation, the stronger the cohesion of the army? Furthermore, the players using such a reason to cause trouble were slandering the Mecha Empire. Thinking of this, Han Xiao smiled and summoned Philip. Philip, focus on monitoring the movements of the army's immortals. Report any situation to me. Okay, By the way, use my name to invite the Beyond grade as over. Send a copy to the Mecha Empire too. Didn't you have a falling out with the Mecha Empire? Will he come? Philip tilted his head with a confused expression. How would I know? Just send it to him. It'll be best if he comes. I can tease him again. Han Xiao chuckled. Okay. Seeing Han Zhao's kind smile, Philip shrunk his head and did not dare say or ask. Black Star invited me to participate in an event? In a secret base somewhere in the primeval Star River, Manison, who was facing simulation models to deduce the theory of the virtual mutiny virus, stopped and looked at his artificial intelligence with confusion. Yes, he intends to invite you to the Black Star Cup closing ceremony. Is this guy acting up again? Didn't we already fall out? Why is he sending me an invitation now? What makes Black Star think that I will go and support his event? Manison was confused. Is he trying to make up for our relationship and get back together? Or is he trying to embarrass me in public? I'm not going. Reject him for me. Manison replied calmly and continued to deduce the technology. Okay, the message has been sent. Manison nodded and suddenly stopped what he was doing. By the way, on the day of the Black Star Cup closing ceremony, remember to remind me to watch the live broadcast. Although he did not intend to give Han Xiao face, he wanted to see what Black Star was up to. Just as the forums were discussing Han Zhao's authenticity, the last two matches of the Black Star Cup were held as scheduled. Countless spectator stands floated in the sky above the competition planet, and they were all filled with people. Not only were there army members, but there were also normal spectators who had bought tickets. The special spectator stands produced by the Army's logistics department were oval-shaped, and all the walls were made of transparent materials. One could see the situation outside from any angle from the inside, and it also had a zoom function. At the same time, layers of transparent energy barriers protected the spectator stands, which could isolate all kinds of impacts and radiation to prevent the lucky spectators from being injured by the aftershocks. The external anti-gravity ion vectors could allow the spectators' stands to fly at high speeds in various postures, stabilizing at Mach 24 to ensure that they could keep up with the movement speed of the Calamity-grade supers at high altitudes. The cabin was equipped with advanced vertical gyroscopic stabilizers, noise reduction equipment, and shock absorption devices. Even if they flew at supersonic speeds, the spectators would not feel any bumps and would feel as though they were on solid ground at all times. Today, Han Zhao was personally attending the competition. He arrived at the venue and floated in front of the many spectators. As soon as he appeared, he felt as though an electric current was running through his skin, as though he was being sized up by countless people from behind. Han Zhao was not surprised at all. He did not even need to turn around to know that it was the countless players in the audience who were using the detect skill on him. Philip reported the discussions in his mind to him from every single audience seat. In the eyes of the players, Han Zhao's specific attributes were still a question mark, but their goal was to detect the color of Han Zhao's name. The result they obtained was still a green name, which represented their own people. They could not help but whisper among themselves. Let's begin. Han Zhao did not care about the small commotion among the players and turned to signal the host. The host coughed and said loudly, "Hello, everyone. Today is the last day of the official Black Star Cup competition. There will be a total of 2 finals, the solo finals of the Calamity Grade Supers and the 4-way free-for-all finals of the Immortal Grade Supers. Let's cut to the chase. The first match today is a duel between 2 Calamity Grade Supers. Contestants, please step forward." As soon as he said that, Hardaway and Jatina appeared. After a simple introduction and interaction, they went to their respective positions and waited for the match to begin. The Calamity Grade Supers were all on the surface of the planet. Time passed minute by minute, and the atmosphere in the venue gradually became heavy. As the host announced the start of the match, the 2 figures left after images on the spot and suddenly collided. Boom! A shock wave burst out, and the 2 of them immediately got entangled in a fight. Their movements were like shifting shadows, incomparably fast. They moved rapidly on the ground, and wherever they passed, the ground would crack, leaving behind deep claw marks that were several hundred meters long. Boom, 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 boom. The ferocious, pugilist flames continued to bombard Hadavi's body, and the aftershock shattered all the rocks and trees along the way. It was as if a smoke dragon was rampaging on the ground, causing earthquakes, landslides, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. Hardaway was a hardening esper, and Jatina was a pugilist. Both of them were good at close combat, and the battle between the 2 of them was violent and barbaric. It was completely a collision of muscles, like 2 ferocious beasts fighting each other. To be specific, Jatina attacked, and Hardaway was beaten up. It depended on whether the one who was beaten could not take it anymore or the one who was beaten got tired first. The battle between Calamity Grade Supers was huge and shocking, and it was extremely exciting in the eyes of the majority of the audience. However, in Han Zhao's eyes, the movements of the 2 of them were like snails. He could easily count how many times Hardaway's face had trembled after being punched. With Han Zhao's current level, the battle between Calamity Grade Supers was not suspenseful in his eyes. He decided to take a look while browsing the forums. Under the eyes of the audience, the 2 of them fought for half a day before the outcome was decided. The surface of the planet looked like it had been bombarded by countless meteorites, and it was a tragic sight. In the end, Hardaway won. Although he was beaten black and blue, he was able to tire Jatina out. After decades of trial and error, Hardaway's hardening defense was now terrifyingly high. Coupled with his two molding talents, true damage immunity and low-intensity attack immunity, in the Black Star Corps, other than Han Xiao, there was no one who was tankier than him. Haha, I've been personally trained by His Excellency Black Star for decades. You're still too inexperienced. Hardaway proudly shook his finger at Jatina, who was on the ground. If one ignored his swollen cheeks, these words were quite convincing. Damn it! Jatina's face was filled with unwillingness. She slammed the ground, and the shockwave cracked the ground dozens of meters in diameter. Not being able to win the championship meant that she would not be seen in a different light by Black Star. Not being seen in a different light meant that she would have less time to communicate with Black Star during the commendation ceremony. Less time to communicate would increase the difficulty of developing feelings, which meant that the chances of her mating with Black Star would decrease. This made her, a rookie whose goal was to sleep with Black Star, extremely unwilling. Han Xiao watched the two of them go back to recuperate. He stroked his chin and thought to himself, in my previous life, Hardaway did not become a beyond grade A, and Jatina even died in the hands of Beast Ancestor. Now that the two of them are under my command, and I've trained Hardaway for decades, his chances of becoming a beyond grade A super are not zero. It's just that his abilities are too monotonous. Even if he becomes a beyond grade A super, he'll probably be at the bottom like Kohler and Bayoni. As for Jatina, other than her bold lifestyle, Han Xiao quite admired her. In terms of potential alone, Jatina's chances of becoming a beyond grade A super might be higher than Hardaway's, but it was basically impossible for her to reach the level of Beast Ancestor. Han Xiao felt that Jatina's growth limit might be Star Slayer or Torrent Heber among the dynasty's allies. Although they were not very strong, at least they were not at the bottom. Thinking of Heber, Han Xiao could not help but miss him. Ever since he defeated him, Tai Tai had been much more low-key, quietly developing in the Shattered Star Ring. However, speaking of low-key, Han Xiao thought of Cisco again. He felt that this guy's presence in the universe seemed to be getting lower and lower. He could find some time to visit the Star Pupil Civilization. After all, he was now the special consultant of the three universal civilizations, so it was reasonable for him to visit them. While he was thinking, the logistics team of the Black Star Cup had already entered the venue. Using the Continental Shelf Stabilizer, Natural Weather Controller, earth and rock filling pipes, and other industrial equipment, they performed plastic surgery on this almost destroyed planet. After arranging a new venue, the host announced the start of the final match. Rivervale, Dynasty, Thunderstorm, and Gold appeared one after another, greeting everyone. However, at this time, all the players' eyes were focused on Gold. Even the other three teams looked at Gold. Their meaning was self-evident. They were waiting for them to prove themselves. Captain, should I use the character summon card now? Flying Free looked around and said without hesitation, yes. This is the place to prove that what we said is true. The mechanic player took a deep breath, opened the interface, activated the Black Star character summon card, enlarged the status bar, and adjusted it to public. The interface was displayed to everyone present. It did not exist in the eyes of ordinary people, and only the players saw the name of this character summon card. Black Star Summon Card, Billion Mecha Empire, Menacin, duration, 1 hour. It's true. On the countless spectator stands, the players were excited. Many people stood up suddenly, attracting the confused gazes of the other spectators. Han Xiao floated in midair with his arms crossed. Hearing the commotion from the surveillance in his mind, the corners of his mouth curled up. After a while, many players calmed down and quickly calmed down. They looked up at Han Xiao's back with all kinds of emotions in their eyes. Originally, the last match was the focus of attention, but many players were too shocked to watch the match. Their minds were in a mess. On the other hand, the NPC spectators were as excited as usual, constantly cheering for the four teams. They did not know that the immortals beside them were going through a roller coaster ride. Han Xiao did not pay much attention to the match. He kept checking the players' comments on the forums. When he turned back, the match had already ended. In the end, Dynasty won, and gold was the first to be eliminated. Gold had exposed their trump card early, so of course they were targeted. Furthermore, Billion Mecha Empire could not display any shocking effects in the hands of the current players. The players did not have those high-level mechanic skills, so they could not enjoy the targeted bonuses. Furthermore, it only lasted for an hour, so their strongest production and research abilities could not be used. The players could only enjoy the basic bonuses, such as intelligence plus 15%, machinery affinity plus 1, 2x, and mechanic skill level plus 2. Although it was powerful, it was clearly not enough to crush the opponents. In fact, with the current strength of the players, the bonuses provided by this skill might not be as practical as the evolution badge. In the hands of the current players, this ability was completely buried. Only peak beyond grade A mechanics could display the strength of Billion Mecha Empire. All the matches of the Black Star Cup have ended. Thank you for watching, and thank the Army Commander for attending today's match. In 3 days, we will hold the closing ceremony of the Black Star Cup. The Army Commander will personally commend all the winners who achieved good results in the Black Star Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, see you there. The host interviewed everyone for a while, then finished his speech and ended the broadcast for the day. Many of the spectators were still not satisfied and left the stage one after another. Groups of players mixed in the crowd, turning back every few steps to size up Han Xiao, who was still standing at the same spot. Han Xiao smiled and watched the crowd leave. He took in the performance of the players and could not help but raise his brows. He was looking forward to it. I want to see how important I am in the hearts of the players and how many people are willing to sacrifice their lives for me. If you like Legendary Mechanic, please bookmark. Legendary Mechanic updates the fastest. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.